Before our mother remarried, she gave my sister and me each an apartment. My sister chose a villa in the Eastern District, while I was left with no choice but to accept a dilapidated old place downtown. Later, my sister took a fancy to the reclusive scion from the Beijing elite circle living next door. After several failed attempts to seduce him, she flew into a rage and set his house on fire. She was caught and spent the rest of her life in prison. Meanwhile, I hit the jackpot with a demolition payout. I invested the compensation money and multiplied my assets dozens of times over, which caught the eye of the crown prince of Beijing's high society. He made a grand public confession, and our wedding was so lavish and extravagant that the media dubbed it the love story of the century. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment of choosing a house. My sister lunged for the old, dilapidated shack, her face contorted. This time, it's your turn to be imprisoned. The love of the century belongs to me. I'm dying of laughter. Compared to being a living blood bank for the Beijing socialites' unattainable crush, isn't a life of lounging in a mansion and counting money so much sweeter? My mother leaned against a man 10 years her junior, holding two property deeds in her hand. One is a villa in the East District, the other is a rundown old place downtown. You two can choose for yourselves. Consider this my compensation to you two sisters. All right, your father died young, and I, as your mother, have done my absolute duty raising you both to adulthood, haven't I? I was completely dumbfounded by the familiar scene before me. Wait, wasn't I just strapped to an operating table by Marlin to donate blood for his one true love? Before I could even speak, my sister Eileen's eyes lit up as she snatched the old, tattered property deed from my mother's hands. I'll take this small one. The big villa can go to my sister. Her words said one thing, but the greed flickering in her eyes gave away her true intentions. It was then that I realized I had been reborn, and so had Eileen. In our previous life, she was the first to claim the 3-story villa in the East District, leaving me stuck in that dilapidated little place of barely 60 square meters, after my mom and that man left. She even had the nerve to gloat about it to me. Sigh. What good is a prime location when the place is a complete pigsty? Just look at this mess. Oh, but I'm moving into the upscale neighborhood now, sis. The gap between us is about to become a chasm. You just enjoy your little, old, rundown place. After that, she moved into her villa. On the rare occasions we did meet, it was just to listen to her flaunt her wealth. Later on, she set her sights on the reclusive Buddha-like heir from the prestigious Beijing circle next door. Dreaming of marrying into his wealthy family, after several failed attempts at seduction, she flew into a humiliated rage and actually set fire to the monk's house. She was caught and spent the rest of her life in prison. Meanwhile, just 2 months later, I hit the jackpot with a demolition payout. I invested the compensation money and multiplied my assets dozens of times over. Finally catching the eye of Beijing's most eligible bachelor, he made a grand, public declaration of love. And the wedding that followed was so opulent and lavish that the media dubbed it the romance of the century. In this new life, Eileen is clearly trying to snatch that old, dilapidated property and steal the life script I had in my previous lifetime. I smiled without a word and obediently took the deed to the villa. Be good now. From now on, you're on your own. Don't come bothering me anymore. My own mother walked away without a backward glance, her arm wrapped around that man's waist. With everyone else gone, Eileen dropped all pretense, staring at the shabby, dilapidated surroundings, her face contorted almost grotesquely. This time, it's your turn to rot in prison. The love story of the century belongs to me. I nearly died laughing. Compared to being a living blood bank for the Beijing socialites' beloved white moonlight, isn't lounging in a mansion counting money the sweeter deal? After packing a few of my things, I hailed a cab and headed to my villa. Thankfully, even though my biological mother ran off with a man 10 years her junior to chase her own happiness, she never really mistreated my sister and me growing up. My mom is from a family that got rich from property demolition compensation, so she's well off. I've been saving my allowance since I was a kid, and all told, I've squirreled away over 200,000 yuan. That's enough to let me coast for a while in this villa. But from what I know, Eileen has never been one to save money. In her past life, she always got by selling antique trinkets from the villa. That old, rundown place might be in the city center, but the demolition isn't for another 2 months. Broken, unable to cook, she'd have a hard time just surviving. Sure enough, in less than 3 days, I got a call from Eileen asking for help. Lend me some money. At that moment, I was lying on the spacious sofa, watching TV with a face mask on. Hey, lend me some money. You hear me? I need to order takeout. I blew on my freshly done nails. No, the person on the other end of the line was on the verge of losing it, but their shouting seemed weak and listless, probably from hunger. Then what am I supposed to do? Are you really just going to stand by and watch me starve to death? What else did you expect? After all, the whole point of her coming back from Rebirth was to make me walk the same path to prison she did in her last life. It's not like she ever intended for things to go well for me, right? If you have any problems, go talk to Mom. With that, I hung up the phone. Our father died when my sister and I were 10. Mom was heartbroken for years, but when we turned 15, she seemed to change overnight. She started going out all the time, leaving us with nothing but stacks of cash. It seems like she had been waiting all along for the day Eileen and I truly grew up, so she could finally wash her hands of us completely. In a past life, I once ran such a high fever in that old dilapidated apartment that I became delirious, and I even called my mom for help, but at that time, she seemed to be on vacation abroad with her boyfriend. She even said that if I bothered her one more time, she would take back that dumpy apartment, leaving me with nowhere to live. So, why on earth would she help Eileen? 3. I stayed in the villa for a week, but the longer I looked, the more it felt cold, vast, and empty, so I bought some flower seedlings to plant in the yard. The next day, while I was digging and fertilizing the soil in the yard, a shadow suddenly fell over the sunlight in front of me. I looked up and saw Silas, the same Silas who had been pestered by Eileen for 2 years in my past life, standing before me with a furrowed brow. My heart sank. I may have moved in here, but I have no intention of bothering him. After an awkward moment of locked eyes, I was the one to break the silence. Hello, I'm Mona, your new neighbor. I offered a friendly hand, but Silas leaned back slightly. What are you doing? I glanced at my handiwork. Wasn't it obvious? Planting flowers, fertilizing, under the blazing sun. I thought I saw Silas's eyelid twitch. I mean, what kind of fertilizer? I kicked at the flower by my foot. A little embarrassed, manure, Silas's brow furrowed even deeper. That's when I realized he must have misunderstood something, so I quickly explained, that's from my dog. I read online it can be used as fertilizer. Worried he'd still get the wrong idea, I made sure to add, I don't walk him by your place. I always have him do his business in my own yard. I was feeling a bit bored the other day, so I went and got myself a Labrador to keep as a pet. I had no idea it would produce quite so much output. Silas's expression softened a little, but he still kept his distance from me. Before leaving, he pointed at the flower I had planted and said, this type doesn't do well in direct sunlight, it'll likely die here. With that, Silas turned and walked back to his house without a second glance. I just stood there, staring after him in silence. Then I saw him close his window as soon as he got inside. So, was he just complaining about the smell? 4. I followed Silas's advice and moved the flowers to a shady spot. After 2 weeks, the growth was indeed impressive, but I'd also been stuck in the Villa district for a fortnight, bored out of my mind. I decided to head downtown for a change of scenery. I figured I might as well see how Eileen was doing, the one who stole my life and was so hellbent on making it big. The only problem was, I didn't have a car, so I had to hike down the mountain first. I'd been walking for half an hour on this 5-kilometer road, and the end was still nowhere in sight. Just as despair was closing in, a white luxury car suddenly pulled up beside me. As the window rolled down, Silas's profile came into view. Where to? I can give you a lift. A mix of surprise and delight washed over me. After stammering out a couple of thank yous, I reached for the rear door handle, but his car was way too fancy. I'd never been in one like it and had no idea how to open the door. Just as I was standing there awkwardly, Silas leaned over and popped open the passenger door from the inside. He took off his sunglasses and looked at me. Get in the front. I awkwardly slid into the seat, mumbled a thank you, and then obediently closed my eyes to rest. Just a few minutes later, the person beside me let out a soft chuckle. Mona, do you really think I'm your chauffeur? No, I don't. I quickly opened my eyes and waved my hands in protest. I know you're a monk, sworn to celibacy, and you're only helping me out of the goodness of your heart. I'm just worried I'm imposing on you. I'd heard a little about how Eileen had relentlessly pursued Silas in her past life. He's practically a modern-day Liu Xiaohui. I know better than that. I have no desire, nor any intention, of following in Eileen's footsteps. Silas glanced at me out of the corner of his eye, his fingertips lightly tapping the steering wheel. The car shot forward again as the light turned green. Silas added, I just follow a vegetarian diet and chant Buddhist scriptures. I haven't taken monastic vows, so in his past life, he kept rejecting Eileen. Was it simply because he didn't think she was good enough? After leaving the Villa district, I had planned to hail a cab, but Silas insisted on seeing me all the way home and drove me straight to my rundown old place in the city center, since I was there secretly to gather information about Eileen. I didn't want to draw attention, so I got out at the entrance of the alley, but to my surprise, Eileen suddenly darted out from a roadside restaurant. Mona, Silas, what are you two doing together? 5. The rag in Eileen's hands tore in two with a sharp rip. She glared at Silas and me, her face contorted. You just moved in a few days ago and you're already luring men in. Mom gave you a house. You're a grown woman. Can't you earn your own money instead of relying on a man? She spoke so loudly that the neighbors all turned to look. Eileen and I grew up right here. Practically everyone in this neighborhood is a familiar face. The moment she said that, everyone turned to look at me, their brows furrowed. Oh, Mona, dear, I know you and your sister have had a hard lot in life, but this is no way to go about things. Exactly. Why don't you follow your sister's example and come work here with us? At the very least, you'd have a roof over your head and food on the table. I let out a derisive snort. Is Eileen just insulting herself here? Watching the raw envy spreading across her face, I shook my head with a wry smile. Well, of course, after all, the Silas standing before her was the lofty branch she'd spent a lifetime reaching for, but never could grasp. Silas stood by without a word, his gaze fixed intently on me. He had the air of someone waiting to see how I'd explain myself. Sis, what was that smirk for? You think you're too good for a place like this. I may be a waitress, but at least I earn my keep with my own two hands. Unlike you just rely on a man. I raised an eyebrow and walked straight over to Silas. In those few steps, 100 different solutions raced through my mind. Should we pretend to be a couple and totally humiliate Eileen? But if Silas doesn't play along, I'll be the one left looking like a fool. Silas looked down at me. The next second, I took out my phone right in front of everyone, looked up at him, and asked, "Sorry, my sister misunderstood. How much was it? I'll scan to pay you." As soon as I said that, not only Eileen, but Silas also raised an eyebrow in surprise. He stared at me for a moment, then finally opened his payment QR code with what seemed like an exasperated laugh. "It's fine. A dirty mind sees dirt in everything. 100. So dark." After paying, Silas strode off. And the neighbors who had just been lecturing me turned their awkward gazes toward Eileen. "Oh, Eileen, you really have a habit of talking nonsense, don't you? We almost got the wrong idea." Eileen stood frozen in place. With a smile, I walked up to her and loudly read out the 4 large characters on her apron. "Auntie Peng's barbecue." "That's great. Sis, come help me order, will you?" Eileen clenched her jaw tightly, her eyes wide open. "Mona, you're going too far." I turned to look at her in surprise. "I just wanted to see this so-called love story of the century you keep talking about. What's so too far about that?" With that, I happily took my seat. Eileen, on the other hand, remained fuming where she stood and ended up getting an earful from the boss, watching her hustle around the shop, occasionally getting teased by the drunk customers. I couldn't help but click my tongue in sympathy as I enjoyed my skewers. Eileen is probably still daydreaming about her sweet romance. Little does she know, these are actually the most comfortable days of her life. At the very least, she holds her own fate in her hands. 6. After I got back, I added Silas through the residents group chat. "Hey, sorry about earlier, and thanks for today. I really had no choice but to say that. I sincerely apologize again." I held my phone, waiting for a reply that never came. "Seriously, are you mad? After all, he's the untouchable prince of the capital's elite. Word is, he's turned away more socialites and heiresses than you can count. Being treated like a chauffeur must be a first for him. Since we're neighbors, we're bound to run into each other a lot. So, I plot ahead and said, how about I cook you a few of my signature dishes and bring them over? Consider it my apology." It wasn't until an hour later that my phone finally pinged with a notification. "Silas, MHM, I picked some fresh, homegrown veggies from the garden and got to work in the kitchen." I was still wearing a perfectly polite smile on my lips as I brought it over. I hadn't expected Silas to invite me to join him. I declined with a laugh, as I really couldn't stomach a whole table full of greens. But before I could even explain, several food deliveries arrived at the door: wasabi shrimp, sweet and sour pork, and squirrel-shaped mandarin fish. Silas gave me a casual glance and said, "If you're not going to eat it, take it home. I'll eat it." It wouldn't be right to turn down their kindness. We didn't exchange a single word throughout the entire meal, yet I felt completely at ease and enjoyed it immensely. After spending some time with him, Silas turned out to be nothing like the cold, unapproachable person he was rumored to be. That makes sense. How bad could a man who follows a vegetarian diet and prays to Buddha really be? 7. Another month passed, and then word came from downtown about the demolition. That very day, I got a call from Eileen. Didn't see that coming. Did you? The tables have turned, haven't they? Listen to this. My old dump of a place is getting demolished. I'm getting 10 million in cash and 2 new apartments. Just you wait, Mona. See how you'll ever measure up to me now. A cold smirk played on my lips as I watched my own exaggerated expression in the mirror. "What? No way, Eileen. I deserve a cut of that compensation money. You have to give me a share. If I hadn't let you have that old dump back then, that money would be mine right now." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I stifled a laugh, figuring Eileen was completely baffled by my twisted logic. After 2 minutes of silence, Eileen finally yelled back, "You've got some nerve, in your dreams." Just you wait in that fancy villa and watch me rise to the top and transform into a phoenix." After saying that, Eileen quickly hung up the phone. I let out a soft chuckle and said nothing. Does she really think a mere compensation payout is her ticket to the high life? For the young master who's been pampered since childhood, this amount of money is just pocket change for a night's entertainment. In my past life, I invested the money immediately, multiplying my assets dozens of times within 6 months. That's what caught Marlon's eye and led to his very public pursuit. Given Eileen's intellect, this approach is likely a dead end. Lost in thought, I gazed at my reflection in the mirror. In my past life, it seemed on the surface that Marlon was madly in love with me, but in reality, he was only after my blood type. His one true love had leukemia and suffered from frequent anemia, but to make matters worse, she had Rh-negative blood. After Marlon met me, he took me to a hospital once, and not long after, he began pursuing me with relentless intensity. The second week after I agreed to be with him, he forcibly took me to the hospital to have my blood drawn. Even when she was in surgery, I was forcibly strapped to another bed in the operating room. In other words, Marlon was just looking for a living blood bank for his one true love, someone who could replenish her supply on demand. As long as someone's blood type matched his criteria, he would pursue anyone. But the problem now is that I'm Rh-negative too. For my own safety, I need to become strong enough first, so Marlon wouldn't dare to mess with me. 8. Drawing on memories from my past life, I've started investing again, but my starting capital is far too small right now. Even if I sold every antique vase in the house, it still wouldn't be nearly enough. After a painful reckoning, I called a real estate agent the very next day. I was going to sell the house. In this life, if you're going to make a move, you go all in. I happened to run into Silas coming back from outside as I was seeing the real estate agent off. He pulled his car up in front of my house and looked over. "Are you moving?" I nodded with a smile. "I'm in urgent need of money. I'm going to sell this place and buy a smaller one to live in for now." Silas didn't say anything, but his gaze darkened. "So, where's the new place?" I shrugged. "How can I buy a new one when I haven't even sold my current place yet? No new house on the horizon yet. Maybe we'll be neighbors another time." With that, I headed back to my own place to pack. I was planning to take my time packing up, but the agent called me that very evening to say the house had already been sold, without even haggling on the price. Did they find a sucker? The agent gave an awkward chuckle. "When you're that rich, what's a little extra here and there? So when can we view it?" The agent paused for a moment and said, "It seems the other party doesn't intend to view the property. They're ready to sign the contract directly." Could this be a scam? Only after repeatedly verifying everything was correct did I sign the contract. That very night, over 30 million appeared in my account. I set aside $1 million for myself to buy a small house. With the rest of the money, I immediately invested in a company about to go public and became a partner. Another portion went into funding a few short dramas that, based on my memories from my past life, were destined to be huge hits. 6 months later, my liquid capital had not only recouped its initial investment but was already earning more than I ever made in my previous life. As for Eileen over there, word is she's still running around, trying to find out which haunts the young master frequents every night. Her grand, epic romance fantasy was going nowhere, and she was burning through her savings in the process. Seeing her struggle so much, I decided to give her a proper hand. 9. Just like in my past life, my rapid ascent quickly caught Marlon's attention. My breath hitched the moment I received the invitation. It was identical to the one from my past life. It was at this very banquet that Marlon pretended to fall in love with me at first sight. In my previous life, I fainted on the operating table multiple times from blood draws, only to be force-fed tonics every day to replenish what was lost. Marlon kept me imprisoned, severing all my ties to the outside world. I may have some assets, but my foundation is shaky. I have no family or trusted confidants by my side. My one and only assistant gave up looking for me after a while. They drew so much blood from me that my legs were weak when I walked. I was utterly defenseless against Marlon's wicked deeds. Memories of my past life came flooding back, making my heart race and my blood rush to my head. After calming myself down, I took a photo of the invitation and immediately sent it to Eileen. Her reaction was intense. "Where on earth did you steal that ticket from? Who do you think you are? You're not fit to be in a place like this. Say it. Just say it. Mona, why don't you just drop dead? You've already seduced Marlon once. Can't you just let me have him this time? How can you be so vicious? Go die right now." Watching her words grow more venomous with each sentence, the last shred of my conscience finally vanished. I replied, "What if I said I wanted to take you along to see it for yourself?" There was a pause on the other end. 2 minutes later, Eileen responded, "Getting cold feet already. You know you can't handle a scene like that, don't you?" I scoffed and tossed my phone aside. "We have the same mother." but I have no idea how Eileen's brain is wired. 10. I brought Eileen in with me when we entered the venue the next day. Compared to my plain look, she had clearly spent a fortune on her styling. The moment I stepped inside, I saw Marlon being fawned over by everyone. I had only glanced at him for a moment, yet Eileen was vicious enough to grab the bodice of my gown. She threatened me viciously. Mona, I'm warning you. Marlon is mine. If you dare try to seduce him, I'll make you the laughingstock of the entire social elite. Believe me, to be honest, I was genuinely nervous. She's absolutely the type who would rip my dress off and leave me exposed in public. Just as her hand jerked with sudden force, I swiftly intercepted her movement. Don't move. All right, I'll do as you say. With a disdainful snort, Eileen finally withdrew her hand. Gathering her skirts, she made to walk toward Marlon. But I had only promised not to seek Marlon out myself. I'd made no guarantee that he wouldn't come looking for me. Eileen had barely taken a single step when Marlon started walking in our direction. Eileen's step faltered, and she shot a challenging smirk back at me over her shoulder. I raised an eyebrow, watching as the man she loved passed her by and walked straight towards me. Miss Jiang. I forced a faint smile, suppressing the hatred within. Eileen gritted her teeth, shooting me a threatening look, before gathering her skirts and turning back. They're two of a kind, so I was more than happy to play matchmaker. So, after just a brief exchange with Marlon, I promptly introduced him to Eileen. This is sensing Eileen's unfriendly glare, I said, my relative, Eileen. Given how forward Eileen was, Marlon really didn't have a choice in the matter. I made a clean exit, sipping my drink on the sidelines the whole time, watching the two of them grow closer step by step. Just as I was about to have another drink, a hand with distinct, prominent bones suddenly snatched the glass from my grasp. Holding my slightly dizzy head, I turned around and was met with the sight of Silas. He was also dressed in formal wear and let out a soft, disapproving click of his tongue. You're drunk. 11. When I opened my eyes the next day, I stared at the furnishings for a long time, completely unable to figure out where I was. It wasn't until I rolled over and saw the man lying on the other side of the bed that I shot upright in fright. Silas. You're taking advantage of me. I quickly checked my clothes. Phew, good, everything's still on. Silas was woken up by me and sat up as well, but his gaze was rather complicated when he looked at me. Without a word, he walked straight out. I sat listlessly on the bed, patting my head to calm down, and could faintly recall the scene from yesterday when Silas said he would take me home. But he doesn't know where I live. I ended up falling asleep in his car. I can't remember what happened after that, but we're all adults. It doesn't look like you and I, Silas, did anything too crazy last night, so it should be fine in principle, but Silas is a devout Buddhist. I fell onto the bed, my face buried in my hands, muttering my sin over and over. Alcohol leads to trouble. It really, truly does. Just as I was hesitating about whether to slip away, the bedroom door opened again. Silas walked in carrying a bowl of noodles. Looking closer, I saw it was topped with shredded pork. My cheeks flushed uncontrollably the moment I saw him. He nudged the bowl of noodles toward me and let out a soft sigh. Let's eat first. I had never found a meal to be such an agonizing ordeal. After finally finishing, I pushed the bowl away and said, I'm sorry, with utter seriousness. Then, without missing a beat, I shifted gears. But this isn't entirely my fault, you know. You have so many rooms in your house. Why do you need to share one with me? Watching Silas's face darken, I found myself speaking faster and faster. I'm not blaming you. Of course, I just mean, can we let this go? After saying that, I stood up to make a run for it, but after just 2 steps, someone grabbed the back of my shirt and held on tight. Silas's voice came through gritted teeth, right by my ear. Last night, you were the one who got drunk, clung to me, and wouldn't let me leave. After a whole night, you're going to deny it. I turned my head back, trembling with fear, while cursing a blue streak in my mind. I just managed to escape from that lunatic Marlon's clutches, and now I'm caught up in this ridiculous drama with Silas. Just as I was about to say something, Silas's expression suddenly fell. He lowered his gaze, his face etched with profound disappointment. Forget it. Just go. What should I do? We can't let a kind-hearted person down, can we? 12. Silas and I are in touch every day. We're not officially dating, but things have definitely gotten closer between us. As for Eileen, I don't even have to go digging for information. Eileen brags to me every single day about her new relationship. Marlon started pursuing me. See, I told you I'd have a love story for the ages. Ha, you pathetic loser can just rot and stink in prison. Even if you don't end up in prison, you'll never be able to measure up to me in this lifetime. I've decided to say yes to Marlon tonight. He's asked me to marry him. He even took me for a premarital health checkup, says it's for my well-being. I replied with a cold laugh. How thoughtful. I do hope you'll be happy. That was the last text message ever exchanged between Eileen and me. 2 days later, Eileen posted a photo of a huge bouquet on her social media feed. The flowers were all made from rolled-up Chinese yuan bills, followed by a picture of her and Marlon together. After that, Eileen vanished without a trace, just like I did in my past life. Staring at the messages that had gone unanswered, I rested my chin on my hand and wondered, my sister has been unreachable ever since she got together with Marlon. Do you think something might have happened to her? Silas, who was washing fruit, shook the water from his hands. A flicker of displeasure crossing his face, I moved closer to get a good look at him, holding a grudge. You only met Eileen once. Why do you dislike her so much? Silas looked down, gave a noncommittal grunt to avoid answering, and instead said, You want to see Eileen? I nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Of course I do. She was so eager to jump into the fire. Of course I wanted to see what would happen to her. By the way, I thought about how Marlon abused his power, callously disregarding human life, all because of the Shin family's social standing. Since I've been given a second chance at life, he and his beloved white moonlight will face the punishment they deserve. You want to see Eileen? That's easy. My eyes lit up immediately. How, in my excitement, I couldn't help but lean in closer as I spoke. The moment our noses touched, I immediately took half a step back. But whether from nerves or something else, I managed to trip over my own feet and landed on the ground. Silas immediately bent down and helped me up. Ouch, tears welled up in my eyes from the pain, and Silas quickly crouched down to check on my injury. His hand gently probed my side. Did you land here, or here? Say something. When his large hand touched my backside, I tensed up nervously, and my cheeks immediately flushed hot, seeing that I remained silent. Silas probably realized something was off. He quickly withdrew his hand. An awkward silence fell over us. After a long moment, Silas pushed the fruit toward me. It's washed. Go ahead. I'll take you to Marlon's place tomorrow morning. With that, Schrischer beat a hasty retreat. Watching his fleeing figure, I was stunned for a moment before a slow smile curved my lips, truly befitting a monk. He's so innocent. 13. The next day, Silas took me straight to Marlon's place. That makes sense. I'm just getting started. My foundation can't possibly compare to that of established families like the Schwezershins, who've been building their legacies for generations. I can't find Marlon, but Silas is available. The moment he saw me, Marlon's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly, but I caught it. What brings you here today? I got straight to the point. Mr. Marlon, my sister Eileen was supposed to be with you. I haven't been able to reach her. Is she here? Marlon was about to shoot it down, but I quickly added, If he's not here, I'm afraid I'll have to call the police. Marlon swallowed the words on the tip of his tongue. He certainly wasn't going to let me stir up trouble out of nowhere. According to the timeline from his past life, his one true love had already found a matching bone marrow donor by this point and was about to undergo the transplant surgery. However, he was worried something might go wrong during the procedure. So Eileen absolutely had to be present. He pursed his lips slightly, then offered a gentle smile. She's here. She was just asleep. I'll go get her. Roughly 10 minutes later, Marlon emerged, leading Eileen, who was wearing a touch of light makeup. Eileen had lipstick on, but she looked utterly drained, her legs as weak as cotton. When Eileen saw me, it was as if she'd seen a savior. Sis, she was about to say more, but the moment Marlon's hand settled on her waist, she fell silent. You two are just cousins. It's rare to see relatives who get along this well. Marlon gave me a thin, insincere smile as he looked me over, but Silas stepped sideways the next second, blocking his view. Silas looked at him with a cool, detached expression. Looks like congratulations are in order for you too, but don't you think you should give her some space? You're acting like Eileen has vanished off the face of the earth. Eileen sat bolt upright, but soon slumped against the sofa, her strength giving out. She didn't say a word the whole time, at first. She'd shoot me meaningful glances, but later, she didn't even dare to look my way. Could it be? Does Marlon have something on her? But what's that got to do with me? 14. A week later, just as the short drama I invested in was gaining massive popularity, I was abruptly notified it had been taken down. I scrambled to gather information from every possible source, and the trail ultimately led back to the Shin family. At the mention of Marlon's name, my fist clenched involuntarily. Is he trying to undermine me, to scatter my focus and divert my attention from them? Back home, I stared at the calendar and circled the 16th. The day after tomorrow marks the date. In my past life, when I was strapped to the operating table, in the early hours of the 15th, I drove to the hospital where I had the surgery in my past life, at 5 a.m. When I saw several cars arriving in quick succession and someone pushing a wheelchair into the hospital, I immediately perked up. I'm going to call the police and expose Marlon's despicable scheme, but the Shin family is powerful and well-connected. Unless I catch him red-handed during the surgery, not only will Marlon avoid jail time, but I'll likely face severe retaliation from him. Drawing from my memories of a past life, I dialed 110 right at 10 o'clock, the moment the surgery was scheduled to begin. To prevent anyone from covering things up, I also called in multiple media outlets at the same time. I exposed how Marlon with complete disregard for human life, was using a healthy individual with the rare Rh-null blood type as a personal blood bank for his beloved. A few minutes later, several police cars arrived on the scene together. 10 minutes later, the press had all arrived on the scene. I slipped in amidst the chaos, just in time to see the police forcibly halt the surgery, get everyone out of there. Marlon stood blocking the entrance to the operating room, his face dark with menace. No one is allowed inside. The lenses of several media outlets were all trained on Marlon. Mr. Marlon, is the tip we received true? We've heard you force someone to undergo a blood transfusion, in defiance of the law. Mr. Marlon, if you want to prove your innocence, just let the police in now. Everyone started talking at once, but Marlon stood his ground, blocking the operating room door without budging an inch. After multiple warnings went unheeded, the police forced their way in. Not only did Marlon refuse to back down, he ended up in a scuffle with the officers. In the end, he was pinned to the ground by 2 police officers. Seeing the situation escalate, the doctors inside the operating room proactively ushered everyone out. Officer, the surgery has only just begun, everyone is still alive. So it shouldn't count as a crime, right? As the words fell, from the other operating table, Eileen, who had already had 3 bags of blood drained from her, struggled to make a sound. I want to report a crime. Marlon has been illegally holding me captive and forcing me to donate blood for his one true love. He pretended to be in a relationship with me to take nude photos, then threatened to release them to the world if I ever tried to leave. Help me, somebody help me. No wonder Eileen didn't even dare to send a distress message last time we were at Marlon's place. At this point, Marlon's guilt is an established fact. I finally stepped forward from the crowd. Marlon spotted me in the crowd instantly. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared at me, his body still straining against his restraints. It wasn't until the police announced the surgery was cancelled that a single, clear tear finally traced its way down Marlon's cheek. I smiled. What? So your precious white moonlight's life matters, but other people's lives don't. 15. Marlon was taken away by the police, and Eileen, having lost too much blood, was rushed straight to emergency care. Given Eileen's vindictive nature, she'll definitely press charges against Marlon to the fullest extent once she wakes up, with multiple media outlets breaking the story simultaneously. The public outcry over this matter can no longer be ignored. Even if someone wanted to bend the law for the Shin family, they'd have to consider the watchful eyes of the public. 3 days later, the hospital called to say that Eileen had regained consciousness. Swisher and I made our way over at a leisurely pace. No particular reason, I just wanted to kick her while she was down. Just as expected, the moment Eileen saw us, the hatred in her eyes was plain to see. She tried to lunge at me and grab me. You set me up with Marlon on purpose, didn't you? You bitch, you fucking bitch. She tried to slap me, but she was far too weak. I simply took half a step back and easily dodged it. Why do you two get to be together? Why can't I have any happiness? Watching her hysterical state, I calmly wiped my hands. Why can't I be happy? Just because you're a fool doesn't mean I am. You think I'm stupid. You're the %1. Silas pulled me into his arms, his face a mask of disgust as he looked at Eileen. Why would you even bother with someone like her? Let's go home. Silas pulled me away, leaving Eileen to scream and carry on like a madwoman behind us. 2 weeks later, Silas and I attended Marlon's final trial. He was sentenced for his disregard for human life and on charges of intentional assault. The moment I saw him being led away in handcuffs, I felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. After leaving the courthouse, Silas and I were discussing where to grab a bite to eat, but as we walked, a sudden cry of alarm erupted from behind us. I instinctively turned my head and saw a car speeding straight toward me. I froze completely on the spot, my mind going blank. At the last possible second, Silas shoved me out of the way. 16. I hit the ground, but it meant I avoided the car. Before I could even get up, another loud bang came from the roadside. The car slammed into the guardrail. The front end completely crumpled. Silas. My mind was filled with nothing but a deafening roar. Silas. Staggering to my feet, I stumbled toward the car. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. With trembling hands pressed together, I prayed to any power that might be listening for Silas's safety. Just as I was lost in my sobs, a force from behind suddenly yanked me backward. I turned and crashed into a solid, broad chest. My heart finally settled when I caught the familiar scent of soapberry. Silas, you scared me half to death. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I pulled myself from his embrace, my eyes brimming with tears as I checked Silas over for injuries. Seeing the large scrape on his arm, I started crying again. Is this guy an idiot? We're not even officially together. If he had the chance, he should have just run for it himself. Why did he have to push me out first? It's okay now. It's okay now. It's okay. Some bystanders called the police and an ambulance. The person who drove the car and attacked us was Eileen. We were taken to the hospital together to get our wounds treated. She's in critical condition. 17. After disinfecting, I strode forward with my head down. Silas followed closely behind. What's wrong? You're upset because you saw it was your sister driving, aren't you? It's okay. Not everyone who shares blood can. Listening to his incessant muttering, I suddenly stopped in my tracks, ready to confront him, but when I turned and saw the scrapes on his arm, I couldn't help myself and threw myself into his embrace. Tears fell one after another, quickly soaking the front of his shirt. Do you have any idea how dangerous what you just did was? You should have just dodged it yourself. What if you hadn't? Before the words could be finished, Silas suddenly leaned down and kissed me. The rest of my words were swallowed by the kiss. I blinked in shock, my tears held back. After what we've shared, I have to protect you. My face flushed in an instant. Mona, when can we make this official? I couldn't help but laugh. Why do you like me? You're clever enough to see that I orchestrated all of this, besides the recent accident, which I controlled, the downfall of the Shin family, and even how Eileen and Marlon met. It's all connected to me. Silas, you're devoted to Buddha. How could you possibly love someone like me? Silas's grip on my hand tightened. I can't quite explain why, but precisely because of my devotion to Buddha, I believe even more that this is our shared destiny. Destiny, then. An announcement echoed through the hospital. Anyone in the hospital with Rh-negative blood, please report to the second-floor operating room to donate. A patient is in urgent need. Anyone in the hospital with Rh-negative blood, please report to the second-floor operating room to donate. A patient is in urgent need. It was for Eileen, who had just been in a car accident and was undergoing emergency treatment. Silas and I exchanged a glance, then simultaneously started walking toward the main gate. Save her? No way. 18. Silas and I are in a relationship. With the Shin family's downfall, the short drama that was previously taken offline is now back on air. My assets have multiplied many times over, so I plan to buy back the villa that was sold off back then. I'll continue being neighbors with Silas, but when I saw Silas open that door, I was completely taken aback. I have my own money. I don't need you to buy this for me. Silas chuckled softly as he placed the key in my hand. I stared at the key, momentarily stunned, as a bold conjecture formed in my mind. This house, don't tell me you bought it. Before moving back to the villa, I made a trip to the prison. Marlon started cursing loudly at me the moment he saw me. What a dignified man. Reduced to such a sorry state, after he finished his tirade, I said calmly, Eileen is dead. Marlon was stunned for a moment. Then what about my Marnie? Who's going to give blood for my Marnie now that she's dead? I have the same rare blood type. A flicker of hope instantly returned to Marlon's eyes. I'll pay you. I'll have all the money given to you. Please, save Marnie. Name your price. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Yes, I'd be delighted, but your first love passed away yesterday after unsuccessful resuscitation. With that, I turned and strode away. Marlon's screams and roars were incessant, a truly pitiful sound to hear. Not a single one of these people was innocent. Although his so-called white moonlight did nothing herself, she tacitly condoned Marlon's despicable actions, and me, with money, a man, and a dog. The best days are just beginning. The end. Story 2. My parents planned to take the whole family back to our hometown for the ancestral worship ceremony during the Dragon Boat Festival. The weather forecast has issued a heatwave warning, predicting extremely high temperatures for the Dragon Boat Festival. I tried to persuade my parents, with this unusually extreme heat, maybe we shouldn't go back this year for the festival. My father slapped me and insisted on returning to our hometown. On Dragon Boat Festival Day, a brutal heatwave struck. With no air conditioning in the countryside, people kept dying from the heat. My nephew threw a tantrum for cola, and the whole family forced me to go out. After I left, my parents took my brother's family and hid in the cellar. Tyler was clever to trick your aunt into leaving. The cellar's running low on food. Bringing that useless burden would mean less for everyone. Let her fend for herself. I collapsed from heatstroke on the road, still clutching the overpriced iced Coke I'd bought. When I opened my eyes again, my parents were packing to return to our hometown. I said with a smile, heat warnings are all nonsense. We must go back for the ancestral worship during the Dragon Boat Festival. The Dragon Boat Festival is approaching, and the whole family plans to return for the ancestral rites. Breaking news, the temperature will reach a high of 45 degrees Celsius on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, with the heat wave expected to last for the next 2 weeks. Citizens are advised to take precautions against the heat. Watching the news, the sensation of being scorched by extreme heat in my past life overwhelmed me, and I struggled to calm myself. My sister-in-law looked at the news hesitantly. Zoe, the TV says extreme heat can be deadly. Should we still go back? Sis, honoring our ancestors during the Dragon Boat Festival is important. Of course we're going back. The heat warnings are just scare tactics. My 5-year-old nephew rushed over "Auntie, I want to buy a toy. Can you give me $1,000? My mom chimed in, "You're not blood related. We'll only accept you as family if you treat Tyler well. Hurry up and give him the money." Looking at this nephew I've doted on for years, a chill ran through my heart. Since Tyler was born, I've covered all his formula and diapers, and given my brother and sister-in-law 20 to 30,000 in red envelopes every year. Yet my mother still isn't satisfied. Constantly nagging about my brother not having a wedding home, my heart ached for my parents, so I forked over $200,000 for the down payment. The whole family joyfully moved into the new house, a spacious 4-bedroom home, yet there wasn't a single bedroom for me. My entire family leeches off me. During heat waves, my own relatives seemed to want me dead. Everything my mom packed in the suitcase was thrown out by my brother. 5. Mom. Even rural areas have supermarkets. Why did you pack instant noodles and bottled water? There's no space left in the car. Travel light from home but pack heavy for the road. I'll feel better if we bring plenty of snacks. My sister-in-law wasn't pleased either. I have plenty of clothes and shoes. Don't bother bringing all this junk. My dad chimed in, "Zoe's got money. If we need anything back home, she can buy it." Hearing this, my mom's eyes lit up. Exactly, lucky for us we've got such a devoted daughter. In my past life, I insisted on bringing a full load of food and heatstroke prevention supplies. Watching the family travel light, I was curious to see how they would endure the 2 weeks of scorching heat this time around. I made an excuse about work and left a day later, not returning to my hometown with the rest of the family. My brother, driving his BMW, waved at me and said, "Don't forget to bring extra cash. Ancestral ceremonies aren't cheap." The BMW is actually my car, but my brother always finds excuses to borrow it. Over time, he's basically claimed it as his own. I asked my parents to settle the matter, but my father just yelled at me, "You're just a girl. What business do you have driving a luxury car? Your brother needs it for work, so let him use it." My brother is a jobless freeloader. What real business could he possibly have? But after years of family conditioning, I'd come to believe that making my parents happy was worth any personal sacrifice. The car sped off in a cloud of dust, its occupants blissfully unaware of what awaited them. My ancestral village in the northern countryside had no air conditioning and scarce food supplies. Returning there felt like a point of no return. I'd preemptively rented a truck from a leasing company. I went to several supermarkets and bought a large quantity of supplies: rice, flour, instant noodles, self-heating rice meals, hot and sour noodles, fruits, snacks, mineral water, and beverages. I bought some vegetables and fruits, but kept the amount moderate due to concerns about spoilage in the heat. It's enough to last a week. I also made sure to get heat relief items and common medicines. All these things filled the rented truck to the brim. I also bought 200 power banks, each fully charged. Worried about the heat wave causing blackouts, I went and got a few home generators. The shopkeeper chuckled, "Here because of the heatwave news, young lady. Business has been booming today. Looks like there are others planning ahead just like me." With everything prepared, I set off on the journey back to my hometown with the driver. Truth be told, I could have chosen to stay in the city to escape the scorching heat instead of returning home. But I've considered that the city might not be safe either, in desperate times. Even a security door can't hold back a frenzied crowd. The countryside, on the other hand, is actually the better choice. I have a childhood friend from my hometown who now lives abroad. Her family owns a small villa in town, but they only stay there a few times a year. I've already asked her for the gate code. The movers moved the truck's contents into the villa's basement. I took the master with me to town and bought enough fresh fruits and vegetables to last us half a month. We also grabbed 2 boxes of ice cream and other cooling treats. As the truck driver left, I reminded him, "Head home early, and make sure to stock up on supplies and heat relief items." The temperature was already scorching. The day before the Dragon Boat Festival, the temperature had already hit 36 degrees Celsius. The villa is just a 5-minute walk from my parents' place in the countryside. The moment I stepped into the yard, my mom started yelling, "Your brother lost $2,000 playing cards. Zoe, go pay his debt." I brushed it off, saying, "We'll deal with it tomorrow. You wouldn't dare not pay me back." My brother glared at me. The weather grew increasingly muggy, and my sister-in-law began to regret it. "I told you we shouldn't have come back. It's all Zoe's fault for insisting. There's not even an air conditioner." My nephew ran over and kicked me. "You're the worst aunt ever. I'm so hot I could die. Go buy an air conditioner now." Looking at my obese, severely overweight nephew, I pushed him back with one hand. "Tell your dad to buy it. Go ahead and buy it. My grandma said all your money will be mine when you die anyway." My mother forced an awkward smile and said, "Kids say the darndest things in this family." I've always felt for my mother, constantly bullied by my father and brother. I tried everything to cheer her up, even sucking up to my sister-in-law and spending both money and effort, but deep down, her son and grandson still mean the world to her. All that fake concern was just a ploy to get money out of me. A mother's love that has to be begged for isn't real. Thankfully, I've stopped hoping for it. In my past life, I was pushed out and left to die in the heat, and my mother was an accomplice to the cruelty. None of them are innocent. Does Tyler want to buy an air conditioner? I certainly won't let him have his way. You only come back a few times a year. Buying an AC isn't worth it. You might as well buy my sister-in-law a bag instead. You're so thoughtful. I've had my eye on a bag that's 3,000 yuan. I'll send you the link, sis. I'll buy it for you when I get back. I immediately deleted the link my sister-in-law sent me. Ignoring the heat, my sister-in-law grabbed my nephew by the ear and yelled, "You must be a heat-stricken ghost reborn. If you weren't so chubby, would it be this hot? It's all your grandma's fault for overfeeding you all day." My mom and my sister-in-law started arguing. With tears in her eyes, my mom turned to me and said, "Zoe, you're the one who bought all that food, right?" In the past, I would have taken the blame just to keep the peace between my mom and my sister-in-law. Looking at my mom's hopeful eyes, I spoke slowly and deliberately. "It was you who scolded my sister-in-law, saying she was so stingy she'd starve your grandson, and that you were the one secretly buying him snacks. Oh dear, I've raised my daughter for nothing. What a sin." My sister-in-law and my mom had a huge argument, and my dad, annoyed, started hitting and kicking my mom. I watched it all unfold with cold detachment. As the evening grew hotter, my mom suggested, "Why don't we stock up on some food and buy an air conditioner?" "I just have a bad feeling about this," my brother snapped impatiently. "It's just a bit of heat. We'll be heading back to the city in a couple of days anyway," my sister-in-law said while flaunting her manicure. "I absolutely hate hoarding stuff. Not buying it." Wiping the sweat off my face, I chimed in, "Mom, the heat might be intense, but it won't actually kill anyone, right?" That was something my mom said to me in my past life. Back then, she shoved me out the door and snapped, "Stop being so dramatic. It's not like the heat's going to kill you, this time. I'm curious to see if they'll survive the heat without me." Everyone kept taking cold showers at night, but the sweltering heat didn't let up at all. Only I know this is just the beginning. The current temperature is still within human tolerance. The real scorching heat is only just beginning tomorrow. Early the next morning, my dad and my brother went up the mountain to pay respects at the ancestral graves. They came back home all smiles. The supermarket at the village entrance was completely cleared out. "I think the villagers are just being silly. What's a little heat wave? It's not like people are gonna die from it." 5. My dad also said, "That's just fake news spread by the supermarket owner to boost sales. I heard instant noodles are going for $6 a pack. What a ripoff." My mom looked worried and was about to head to the store to stock up. I quickly stopped her and said, "Mom, it's all a scam. We can't fall for it. Let's not waste our hard-earned money." We still had 2 sacks of grain left at home, so I suggested, "Why don't we sell the grain at a high price? We could make a tidy profit." The moment he heard there was money to be made, my dad's eyes lit up. "Sell it. 20 a pound. We're leaving in 2 days anyway." Just like that, we sold both sacks of grain, keeping only enough to last the family 3 days. My dad and my brother counted the money from the grain sale, chuckling with delight. Soon, their smiles vanished. The temperature had soared to 44 degrees Celsius. The village loudspeaker announced heat-related fatalities. Households began locking their doors as panic spread. The whole family fell silent. My mom cooked, but the meal downgraded from rice to watery rice porridge. I didn't even get a spoonful of the porridge. My sister-in-law said, "Zoe won't starve from missing one meal. Eat less and save some for your nephew." Tyler was rolling on the floor from the heat, yelling, "I don't want porridge. I want Coke, ice-cold Coke. Auntie, go buy it." My mom said matter-of-factly, "Zoe, go to the village store and get some Coke." "Mom, it's scorching hot out there. I could die." I protested. Just like in a past life, my mom shoved me out the door, saying, "Don't come back without it. Tyler's about to pass out from the heat." My brother snatched my phone and snapped, "Useless brat. My son's overheating. Hurry up and go." Tyler wailed, "Auntie is trying to kill me with this heat. I want my Coke." My mother soothed Tyler and snapped angrily, "If my grandson gets sick from this heat, I'll skin you alive." People were literally dying of heat stroke outside, yet no one in this family gave a damn about whether I lived or died. My sister-in-law and my mother shoved me out into the yard, and the gate slammed shut with a loud clang. "Don't you dare come back without that ice-cold Coke," my sister-in-law yelled. The ground was scorching hot. When I fell, a burning pain shot through my palms. I lifted my hand to see skin peeling off my palm. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I forced myself to stand. "Mom, are you turning me away too?" My mother hesitated for a moment and said, "Tyler is the apple of our family's eye. You always dote on him the most. Go buy it now. My precious grandson is going to overheat." My heart sank as I withdrew the last shred of pity I had left. "Don't say I didn't warn you." I retrieved the sun protection gear I had hidden earlier from the straw stack by the courtyard gate. This is a top-tier heat-resistant outfit that can keep me protected outdoors for half an hour in temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius, instead of leaving right away. I pressed my ear against the door to listen to the conversation inside. After a moment, my brother's voice said, "Is Zoe really gone?" My sister-in-law said smugly, "Our Tyler is so clever, he knew how to trick that useless girl into leaving. She'll never find that ice-cold cola. It'd be best if she never comes back," my father said. "We don't have enough food to feed everyone. With one less mouth to feed, we can last a few more days. I brought her into this world. If her life saves the family, it's not in vain," my mother said tearfully. "It breaks my heart to think Zoe can't come back. What if we let her in if she returns?" My sister-in-law yelled, "If you want to die, don't drag us down with you. We're all starving. Why keep that worthless burden around? She saved hundreds of thousands, and that money belongs to our Tyler. If you want to die too, go join her." My mother fell silent then. I knew she was afraid of dying. Who wouldn't be scared? In my past life, I ran halfway across the village and ended up buying an overpriced ice-cold cola from a household. I got sunburned so badly my skin peeled. All just to make my nephew happy. Enduring excruciating pain, I crawled my way back home, only to find out that even when I returned, they had no intention of opening the door for me. From the very beginning, the whole family just wanted me dead. At this moment, I actually feel a sense of relief. The people behind that door are no family of mine. They're monsters. After the argument, my father suggested, "Let's pack our things and head to the cellar, if we can hold out for a few days. The temperature will drop and things will get better." I turned and left, heading to my well-stocked villa. On the 7th day of the relentless heat, the whole city lost water and power. While the electricity was still available, I enjoyed the cool air from the AC and took a relaxing bath. The villa is fully equipped with appliances. I grabbed an ice cream from the freezer, and as the chill rushed down my throat, the scorching heat I'd been feeling subsided considerably. The villa has a 2-level basement, which includes a home theater. I lounged on the sofa, watched a couple of movies, and dozed off. When I woke up, the cool air from the AC was blowing gently, feeling refreshing and comfortable. The sweltering heat outside was someone else's problem. I had 2 missed calls, and when I opened the messaging app, I found a message from my sister-in-law. "Zoe, where are you slacking off? Where's the iced cola? Your nephew has heat stroke. Is this some kind of test to see if I'm still alive or not?" I pretended not to see it and didn't reply. I turned on the surveillance device on my phone. There's a security camera installed in the courtyard back at my rural hometown. I was the one who paid for and set it up. On the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, while my family was away visiting the graves, I secretly installed a camera in the cellar. On the surveillance feed, several people were blaming each other. My mom yelled, "Didn't you say we only had a little rice left? How dare you sneak off to eat bread? Lying to Zoe like that. I'll fight you over this." My brother punched my mom and snapped, "That bread was leftover from your daughter-in-law's trip. Stop obsessing over it." My mom lunged at him. "What trip? That's from the village supermarket. You went behind my back to buy food." My brother avoided eye contact and stayed silent. It just dawned on me that my sister-in-law had disappeared for a while yesterday and came back acting all sneaky. Turns out she'd bought into the heatwave rumors and was secretly stockpiling supplies. In the scene, a corner of the cellar was piled with food, cup noodles, potato chips, bread, and spicy strips, just a small shopping bag's worth. But in these circumstances, it was utterly tantalizing. If we ration this food carefully, we might just scrape through these scorching days. My sister-in-law shielded the supplies and snapped, "I fought to get these, paid $800 for them. You old fogey, keep your hands off." My mother beat her chest in frustration. "Tyler even asks me for money to buy clothes. When have you ever contributed to household expenses? Just leeching off us old folks all day long." My father said impatiently, "Why the mourning? It's good our daughter-in-law stockpiled supplies. Gives us something to look forward to, doesn't it?" My sister-in-law muttered, "Zoe is the worst. It's all her fault for telling us to sell our grain. We wouldn't be worried about starving otherwise." The whole family agreed with that and started ganging up on me, saying I deserved to die out there. That night, Tyler kept complaining he was hungry, so my sister-in-law pulled out 3 packs of instant noodles. The 3 of them just gnawed on them dry. Why not cook them? It's scorching hot. Nobody wants a bowl of steaming noodle soup. 2 days later, my sister-in-law had eaten through all the food she had stockpiled. My mom kept telling everyone to ration supplies, but no one listened, so we were back to surviving on watery rice porridge. Meanwhile, I was lounging comfortably in my air-conditioned room, video chatting with my childhood friend who lives abroad. Whatever you do, don't soften your heart. Your parents are total vampires, rest assured. Their daughter had already passed away on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival. Life at the villa was carefree and leisurely. The fridge and freezer were stocked with food, so I happily whipped up a French steak and video called my mom. Such a wonderful life would be so dull with no one to share it with. They must have reached their limit, and during these scorching days without food, the video call connected, and my sister-in-law's scream came through. "Zoe, you're eating steak and drinking wine. Are you not dead? Where are you?" "Were you hoping I'd be dead?" I pressed further. Realizing she'd slipped up, my sister-in-law said sheepishly, "What I meant was, why didn't you come back after buying the ice-cold Coke? Where did you go?" I almost died on the way, but then someone took me in. This place is great, air conditioning, ice cream, plenty of food. My brother licked his chapped lips and said, "Zoe, why didn't you come get us? Yeah, your own family is suffering here. How could you not come?" my father accused. Hearing there was ice cream, Tyler lunged forward and demanded fiercely, "I want ice cream, ice-cold Coke, and the AC. Give me the AC now." I opened the refrigerator door to find a full row of ice-cold Cokes, then turned to look at the camera. "Want some ice-cold Coke?" Tyler nodded and said, "Yes, in your next life." Maybe. I shut the refrigerator door, unable to get a Coke. Tyler started to lose it. "You're a terrible aunt. I won't take care of you when you're old. I'll spend all your money. Just drop dead. I want my Coke." The family across from me started hurling curses my way. My mom, more skilled in emotional manipulation, cried while guilt-tripping me. "Tyler's just a child. He means no harm. You're his favorite aunt. How could you bear to see him suffer? Come get us now, or we'll all die if this goes on." I asked, "Didn't you tell me to die to save rations? How could you say that? I'm your own mother." "Yes, the mother I loved most was the one who hurt me the deepest. You guys keep grinding away. I'm off to enjoy my steak. See ya." 5. I hung up the phone and studied my somewhat dejected emotions. Some people are simply destined to have thin familial bonds. What isn't meant to be yours can't be forced. My mom and sister-in-law took turns bombarding me with messages. They started with desperate pleas, but when I ignored them, they resorted to hurling insults. Their cutting words had no effect on me. Watching their furious reactions through the surveillance feed was utterly satisfying. The temperature kept climbing. According to the news, it had reached 47 degrees Celsius outside. Even though the cellar was somewhat cooler, it offered little relief, especially since they were also starving. The entire city has ground to a complete halt. With no running water or electricity, both urban and rural areas are shrouded in a deathly stillness. Even the village loudspeakers have fallen silent for a long time. No one knows whether the people in each household are still alive. My solar heating system continuously provides a steady supply of power. The remote countryside villa is deserted and unnoticed, so I'm perfectly safe here. Appliances like the air conditioner and refrigerator are still running, even if the solar panels fail. I'm not worried. There are several backup generators for the house. Every day, I send videos to my sister-in-law showing my meals and my home theater setup. On the 8th day of the heat wave, Tyler suffered a heat stroke and collapsed unconscious in the cellar. My sister-in-law held Tyler in her arms, weeping and wailing. Tyler's condition was critical, and there wasn't even a first aid kit at home. Tyler was severely overweight, making the scorching weather especially unbearable for him. His family spoiled him rotten, letting him eat irregular meals and snack constantly since childhood. His school teachers advised that it would be best for the child to lose weight. My sister-in-law ended up causing a scene at the school, accusing the teachers of discriminating against her son. The teacher ultimately received disciplinary action, and from then on, Tyler had even fewer restraints and grew increasingly heavier. Tyler was pampered from a young age, resulting in very poor physical health. He frequently fell ill every now and then. In this extreme heat wave, he was the first one to buckle under the pressure. My sister-in-law stared at Tyler, shaking him violently as she broke down. "Why did you have to come back for Dragon Boat Festival? If we were still in the city, we'd be enjoying the air conditioning in this heat wave." The mention of the city made everyone nostalgic. My father smacked his lips, itching for a cigarette. As a heavy smoker, he'd long run out of cigarettes to smoke. Sometimes his cravings got so bad he'd bang his head against the wall, and he even started yelling at and hitting my mom more often. In the past, the whole family used to leech off me, all united as one, but now that I'm gone, coupled with this deadly heat wave, the harmony we once had is completely gone. My brother fully agreed with my sister-in-law and chimed in, "If we hadn't come back, we wouldn't be suffering like this. This heat is unbearable, Dad. It's all your fault. You insisted on visiting Grandpa and Grandma's graves. My dad wasn't having it and shot back. Back then, no one objected except Zoe. Now you're all blaming me. Although it's a bit cooler in the cellar, the difference is minimal. Nowhere near as comfortable as a nice, air-conditioned room." My sister-in-law stared blankly. I can't even imagine the life Zoe's living now, eating all the ice cream she wants, lounging in air conditioning. That heartless girl, abandoning her own parents to live in luxury. The whole family nodded eagerly at the mention of me. "Zoe's rotten to the core. I'll break her legs one day. Back then, your grandmother wanted to drown her just for being a girl. I was the one who stopped it, and now she won't even care for her own mother." The whole family was ganging up on me, but Tyler stayed silent. He simply didn't have the strength to speak. Tyler came to a bit and said in a trembling voice, "Mom, I'm hungry." And I'm so thirsty. My sister-in-law had stripped Tyler of all his clothes and placed him in a basin, hoping it would cool him down, but on such a scorching day, even the water in the basin was warm. How could it possibly cool him off? Tyler staggered to his feet with a thud. I'm roasting alive. Auntie, come get me now. My sister-in-law began to regret not having cherished the food. If only I'd been more careful with how much I ate. There's no use crying over spilled milk. In the face of extreme heat, everyone shed their inhibitions. My brother and father stripped down to their underwear. After a moment's hesitation, my mother and sister-in-law also removed their shorts, leaving only their bras on top. The cramped cellar was driving everyone to the brink of madness. My mother started rambling on and on. We should have listened to Zoe and not returned to the countryside. She suggested stockpiling supplies, but I scolded her for it. And why did we have to sell off our grain for money? That was our lifeline. Now we've got cash, but we're starving to death. We nearly got Zoe killed. We got what we deserved. We absolutely had it coming. My mom's constant nagging provoked my brother's anger, and he kicked her across the room. It's all because you're useless. Zoe is trying to get us all killed. That good-for-nothing daughter you raised. My mom clutched her chest, beads of sweat rolling down her face, moaning in pain. I'm your mother. How dare you hit me? You're a useless mother. My son is suffering from heat stroke, and you're completely helpless. If only Zoe were here, we'd be saved. When my name came up, my brother's eyes lit up. He steeled himself and made a decision. Dad, if this goes on, we'll all die. Zoe loves Mom the most. If we tell her Mom is dying, she'll definitely come back with food. My dad hesitated. That girl has a cold heart. She won't believe it for sure. We need to be ruthless here. If my mom gets hurt, Zoe will feel sorry for her. In this family, my mother holds the second lowest status, right after me, yet she's more than willing to sacrifice herself for the so-called family. My mother nodded eagerly. If I get hurt and cry to Zoe, she'll take us away. After agreeing on the plan, my mother slammed her head against the cellar wall, and blood immediately gushed from her forehead. She wiped the blood off her face and video called me. I watched the surveillance feed and answered the call calmly. Zoe, your mother is dying. Come home now. Aren't they still alive? I can't come back. There's a first aid kit at home. Stop the bleeding yourself, I said indifferently. My brother rushed over. You heartless monster. Your nephew is unconscious from heat stroke. Mom's bleeding out. Our whole family is at death's door. Can't you lift a finger to help? Lift a finger. Back when you sent me out for that damn iced cola, you were practically sending me to my death, I said coldly. The heat wave will only last a few more days. Just tough it out. After hanging up, my father pulled my brother aside. There's only one way. That good-for-nothing will only come back for real if your mother dies. But she's my own mother. My father sneered. So which one of you will die, you or your wife? My brother said quietly, just make it quick for Mom. That evening, my sister-in-law ladled out a slightly thicker bowl of rice porridge and handed it to my mother. Eat your fill, Mom, she said, her words trailing off as if holding something back. I know the unspoken words left hanging. Eat your fill. Don't die with an empty stomach. My mother, flattered and flustered, quickly took it. My daughter-in-law truly cares for me. Having a daughter is useless. She's an outsider, a money loser. Only a daughter-in-law is truly family. The thin porridge was laced with tetramethylene disulfotetramine, enough to kill a person several times over. My mother died at the hands of her own family, the very people she loved most. Tyler stared at Grandma's lifeless body and clapped his hands with glee. Now that Grandma's gone, Auntie will come get me. I'm gonna have steak and ice-cold Coke, down in the cellar. The whole family was in high spirits. Not a single soul mourned my mother's passing. They began to fantasize about days with abundant food. My brother rubbed his hands together. Even if we can't get air conditioning, Zoe will definitely bring back food. As long as we don't starve, we'll pull through. They never expected that my mother's death would stir no emotion in me. She's dead. Find a place to bury her. I can't make it back. My father roared. She's your own mother. If you don't come back for the funeral, people will curse you behind your back. I used to care most about what others thought of me, so I always tried to be the dutiful daughter in everyone's eyes. Time and again, my compromises only led to endless exploitation. This time, I choose to live for myself. Whatever, let people say what they want. I'll go pay my respects once this heat wave is over. Tyler's face was frighteningly red as he shook his head repeatedly. Dad said if Grandma died, I wouldn't go hungry. Auntie, Grandma's dead. Why aren't you here yet? I want steak. I want ice cream. Your father's lying to you, you idiot. I ended the video call. The phone was down to its last bit of battery, so my brother carefully powered it off. My sister-in-law said anxiously, we're almost out of food, and your dad, just hang in there a little longer. The group in the cellar endured 2 more days. Scorching heat and hunger left them too weak to even speak, exhausted. They slumped against the corner of the wall. At the villa, I cooked myself a proper meal, 4 dishes and a soup, cola chicken wings, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, poached spicy pork, clear braised beef, and the soup was a tangy hot and sour broth. There's enough food in the villa to last me 3 months. I was having a meal at the restaurant and sent the photo to my brother. On the surveillance footage, my brother cursed under his breath. "If this goes on, we'll all die. Let Dad go out, he might find where Zoe is hiding. The temperature has risen even more now, making it unsafe for anyone to go outside. My dad's terrified of dying. I'm not going. Why should it be me? My mom's dead. If you don't go, who will?" Yeah, my dad's only shield had already been poisoned. When faced with life and death, every member of this family bared their claws. No one doesn't yearn to live. Back then, I was desperately fighting to survive. I crawled across the scorching ground, my knees burning and bleeding. At that moment, I thought if I just held on a little longer, maybe someone would come looking for me. No one has the right to take their lives. The moment they plotted my death, fate's boomerang was destined to strike the perpetrators. My father was ultimately driven out. His most cherished eldest son pushed him out of the cellar. Tyler mustered his strength and ran out. "Good grandson. Did you put in a good word for me?" Hope sparked in my father's eyes. Tyler said excitedly, "Grandpa, can you buy me an ice-cold Coke? I really want one." The glimmer of hope in my father's eyes faded, and everything fell into dead silence. "Look, the boomerang of fate has come back around." I was shoved out the door to buy cola, and my dad said indifferently, "Tyler wants a drink, so hurry up. Don't come back if you can't get it." "Yeah, my dear Dad, if I can't get it, don't you come back either." "I'm afraid you can't go back either." My father knew stepping outside meant certain death, so he left the cellar and returned to the house. The room was hotter than a steamer, and though he searched everywhere, he found no food. I regret it so much. Was it regret for stocking up on supplies, or regret for killing my mother? Of course, the outcome meant nothing to me. My father's phone beeped with a low battery warning. Clinging to one last shred of hope, he dialed my number. 5. "Zoe, where are you?" "Your brother kicked me out of the cellar. I'm dying. I'd die if I go out too. Hang in there a bit longer. If it really comes to it, you can keep Mom company. At least you won't be alone. Ungrateful daughter. Just wait till I find you. I'll skin you alive." My dad didn't have the strength to come after me. He's dead. He died 2 hours after being driven out of the cellar. He suffered a painful death from severe dehydration due to extreme heat. My brother and his wife remained in the cellar. Clinging to the faint hope that my father would return with good news, Tyler would fall into a coma daily, only to be briefly revived after being fed rice broth. When will Grandpa be back with the ice-cold cola? I'm so hot. The family of 3, overcome by the intense heat, had long shed their clothes without a shred of shame. My sister-in-law licked her chapped lips and said, "He'll definitely come back." This was their only hope. 3 days later, the rice jar was completely empty. My brother turned his gaze toward my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law sent me a message. "Zoe, help me, who came to my rescue in my past life." I decided to turn off my phone completely. My brother ultimately didn't go through with it. Not that he had a change of heart. Someone outside shouted that the temperature was dropping. On the 17th day after the heat wave, the temperature finally dropped. My brother and sister-in-law's eyes were filled with numbness and confusion. "Is it really over?" My brother tried to hug my sister-in-law, but she stepped back and said, "Don't touch me, you creep. I want a divorce. I'm divorcing you." I saved the surveillance footage and called the local police as soon as utilities and communications were restored. "Hello. I'd like to report an attempted murder." The outside temperature returned to normal. My brother bought food from the villagers, and Tyler finally got to drink the ice-cold Coke he'd been craving. After resting, the family was about to head back to the city when they were stopped by local thugs. "You lost thousands gambling. Pay up now." My brother had no money. He was counting on me to clean up his mess. Unable to pay, the gang beat him brutally. His agonizing screams captured on surveillance footage. "My sister has money. He'll pay it back." No one believed him. Then sirens blared, and the police took the whole family away on suspicion of murder. A few days later, I was called in for questioning too. My father's death wasn't directly caused by my brother and his wife. They only forced him out of the cellar. While morally reprehensible, it doesn't constitute murder, but my mother's death was their doing. The surveillance footage is the most compelling evidence. They can't escape charges for the premeditated murder of my mother. My brother and his wife begged tearfully for me to write a letter of forgiveness, hoping it would lead to a lighter sentence. I paid no mind. Confessing to me is pointless. Only those you've wronged to death have the right to grant forgiveness. In the end, my brother was sentenced to death, and my sister-in-law got life imprisonment. My sister-in-law's parents adopted Tyler and even planned to demand monthly living expenses from me. The house under my brother's name was actually purchased in mine, so I had every right to dispose of it. I sold the house and the car, took the money, and swiftly moved to another city, with grandparents who can't tell right from wrong. Tyler is bound to face many hardships when he grows up. After all, the real world won't coddle you like family does. I bought an apartment in a coastal city and adopted 2 cats. Every day feels incredibly blissful. And the nightmare of scorching heat is finally fading away. After going through these experiences, I've adopted a whole new way of living. Please yourself before pleasing others. Nurture your own growth. From now on, I live only for myself. Story 2. On the day the world froze over, my boyfriend and his childhood sweetheart stole my food and chopped me up. I was reborn a month before the apocalypse. I also awakened a special ability related to space. I built a safe house, cleared out the supermarket inventory, and in the freezing temperatures of -50 degrees Celsius, I enjoyed steaming hot gourmet meals fit for a 5-star hotel. I waited for my ex-boyfriend and his family to come knocking again. 01. My mom's hungry. Do you have any food left? When Jason entered, I was shivering under 2 thin blankets, in the -50-degree weather. He yanked the blankets away and threw me harshly onto the ground. The cold shocked me to my core, and I lay trembling on the ground. Before the apocalypse, he was my boyfriend in name only, someone I had met through a matchmaking session. After the apocalypse, he and his mother, Eleanor, barged into my home, took my food, and feasted at my expense. His rough handling reopened the dry cracks in my skin, causing pain. Combined with days without food, I knew my body was extremely weak. He impatiently choked me, causing my eyes to roll back as I frantically shook my head. Disloyal and unfilial. Just die, he said coldly as he threw me aside. My head spun, and I struggled to catch my breath. Jason's childhood sweetheart, Audrey, also walked in. Even in the apocalypse, she looked much better than I did. Just last week, Jason had unilaterally decided to let her in, stealing and handing over the food I had been reluctant to eat. He told Audrey, "Don't be afraid, Audrey, eat more, you've lost weight." Eventually, it escalated to outright robbery. They shamelessly told me, "Audrey is unwell. She needs to eat. Can't you see? You're really selfish." It turned out, they had conspired together long ago, planning to clean me out since I had no surviving parents, outnumbered and injured. I stood no chance against the 3 of them, barely clinging to life. Audrey whined, "Brother, I'm also hungry. Isn't there even a little bit of food left?" Jason affectionately hugged her and glanced at me quickly, whispering to please her. If it really comes to it, well, 02. My last memory was of Jason and Audrey charging at me with a kitchen knife and an axe. I struggled with all the survival instinct I had, but 2 against 1 was too much. Blood splattered everywhere, accompanied by intense pain and overwhelming hatred. Tears seemed to form in my dry eyes. If only Mom and Dad could see this, how heartbroken they would be. If only I could start over. The pain was unbearable. As the pain slowly faded, I lost consciousness. When I awoke again, cold sweat soaked my pajamas. As soon as I opened my eyes, I instinctively felt my arms and legs. They were all there. Startled, the pain from the dream felt so real that I checked again. Everything was intact. "You've been laid off, but sleeping until noon isn't the solution. Come and have some hot pot." My mom's head peeked through the door gap and then withdrew. "Mom," I sprang from the bed, tears streaming uncontrollably. In my previous life, my parents had died in a subway collapse caused by the cold a week before the apocalypse. It was a bolt from the blue, turning my world dark. Grieving, I became increasingly dependent on my ex-boyfriend, who had stayed by my side, and I had let my guard down around his family. But now, things were different. I had my family back. 03. Seeing me crying and wolfing down food, my parents were stunned. I cried and took a big sip of hot chicken soup. "It's so delicious." And I cried as I ate a large piece of marbled beef. "It's so good." After the apocalypse, forget about hot pot. Even a piece of stale bread is a dream food for many. I was eating so frantically that it took me a while to realize my manners had slipped. Wiping my mouth, I explained to my parents, "I just had a nightmare and woke up incredibly hungry. I decided not to bring up the impending apocalypse right now. I'll wait until everything is ready." Dad couldn't help but say, "Ever since you were laid off, your eating and sleeping patterns have been irregular, and I'm worried about your mental state." After sending my parents home, I began to think about my plans. It's 1 month before the apocalypse. In a month, global temperatures will plummet, with my city in the south dropping below -50 degrees Celsius. That's considered mild compared to some northern cities where temperatures will hit over -100 degrees Celsius. The whole world will be buried in heavy snow, with most people freezing or starving to death. I walked into the kitchen, greedily looking at the array of food, and caressed a packet of sauerkraut beef instant noodles like a precious treasure. I need enough space to store food, but how can I find enough space? As I pondered, the noodles disappeared from my hand. Shocked, I picked up a packet of snail noodle soup, and it too disappeared, while in a haze. I seemed to see a vast white space that appeared to exist within my consciousness. I experimented with different items, whether food or appliances, and found I could easily place and retrieve them. Lucky for me, I read a lot of novels. I realized I had awakened a spatial ability that gave me a limitless space where time stood still. My heart couldn't contain its ecstasy. This was a paradise for food lovers. Suppressing my excitement, I sat down at the table and started to review my finances. After graduating, I worked at a major company called BiteHop, scrimping and saving through many years of 996 work schedules and luckily received a severance package, selling all my stock options. I had about $5 million in savings. The 2 apartments my parents bought were in my name due to various policies at the time. Being a dutiful daughter, I mortgaged them and added another $10 million to my account. Currently, I had $15 million quietly sitting in my bank account. I don't remember any lottery numbers, but I always kept an eye on the stock market, especially since I was laid off and idle at home, and I remembered the key points for buying and selling a dozen outstanding stocks, so I invested all $17 million into the stock market. After a few days of leverage trading, my funds had multiplied several times, reaching $50 million, without delay. The first thing to tackle was the safe house. One of the country's most renowned security companies was located in my city. After scheduling an appointment and explaining my needs, I asked for the highest level of protection for my 2-story villa, inside and out. The manager was a bit surprised but provided a professional and detailed plan and quotation the next day. After 2 days of discussion, we finalized the plan, which included reinforcing the entire house, air filtration, a fireplace, snow water filtration, solar power, and more. The manager assured me that even a cannon or tank couldn't breach my safe house. In short, the plan covered everything I could and couldn't think of. The work was to be expedited and completed within half a month for a total of $50 million, with a 30% down payment of $15 million. The remainder was to be paid within 3 months. After paying, as I left the security company, my mom called. I had to tell her that I was busy job hunting and wouldn't visit them for now and asked them not to visit me either. I'd see them in half a month. During the renovation of the safe house, I planned to stay in a hotel to avoid arousing my parents' suspicions. The second task was stocking up. I rented several self-built buildings and warehouses in the city because their paperwork was irregular, and my fake identity information passed without issue. I didn't plan to sweep goods from supermarkets but instead contacted several wholesalers and suppliers under the guise of opening a supermarket, arranging for them to deliver large quantities directly. I ordered several tons of various high-quality vegetables, fruits, and seafood. I purchased beef, pork, chicken, and duck in the tens of tons. For rice and flour, it's even more, hundreds of tons at a time. Once everything is delivered to my warehouse, I store it batch by batch in a special space where it never expires. After a busy afternoon, I managed to store all the supplies delivered from the wholesale market into that space. Once I meticulously recorded the exact quantities in my notebook, a wave of intense hunger hit me, nearly causing me to collapse. It seems using my special abilities really drains my energy. Unable to drive, I immediately took a taxi to a 5-star hotel buffet and started eating voraciously as soon as I sat down. Other patrons stared in disbelief as a seemingly frail girl piled up her plates high. I didn't care. I kept eating heartily. The food was simply delicious. After indulging for 3 hours, I finally felt somewhat satisfied. I thought about how such delicious meals won't be available after the apocalypse. With this in mind, I enjoyed pistachios and strawberry ice cream while searching online for the phone numbers of the 6 best 5-star hotels in the city. I excluded any that just looked fancy but didn't serve tasty food. I called each one, arranging for them to deliver 200 banquet tables for 3 continuous days, pretending it was for my wedding, a grand feast for relatives and friends. After paying the hotel deposits, I felt hungry again and grabbed 3 freshly cooked steaks, this time eating elegantly with a knife and fork. The following days were incredibly busy. Not only did I have to monitor and trade stocks daily, but I also had to check the goods delivered by wholesalers and suppliers to various warehouses. After the transportation workers left, I would use my abilities to transfer the goods into my space. The more I used my abilities, the stronger they seemed to become, allowing me to store more items each time and do so more efficiently. Around noon, calls from the 5-star hotels began to arrive, and they sent meals directly to me. I instructed them to deliver the banquets directly to my warehouse. The hotels had their ways. Even though the dishes were delivered, they arrived steaming hot as if just cooked. As the feast arrived, I couldn't help but salivate at the sight of delicacies like steamed lobster, abalone and black bean sauce, duck stewed with mountain mushrooms, braised shark fin soup, king crab, snow crab, Buddha jumps over the wall, and roasted suckling pig, all incredibly appetizing. I resisted the urge to eat and stored everything in my space while it was hot. knowing there would be plenty of time to enjoy it later. Besides these hotels, I heard about some local chefs famous for their banquet skills, their dishes no less superb. Remembering a particularly delicious meal I once had, I decided to arrange for them to deliver banquets as well. Just as I was about to look up their numbers, a call came in. Seeing the name on my phone screen, anger surged uncontrollably, and I had the urge to crush my phone at this time. Before experiencing the trauma of my parents' accident, Jason was just a regular matchmaking candidate. He was average in most ways, his only notable traits being his good looks and the committee auntie's comment about his honesty. His conversations were typical. Have you eaten? Have you finished work? What are you doing? Can a straightforward and honest man truly be considered kind? Clenching my fist with brewing resentment, I pondered whether to deal with him. But I decided against it for now. Not wanting any trouble that could interfere with my stockpiling. When the apocalypse comes, I'll deal with him and his family, and oh, Audrey too. As soon as I answered, he launched into a lengthy lecture. Lucy, I saw you dining at the 5-star hotel yesterday. That must be expensive. I didn't expect you to be so materialistic. My mother doesn't like girls who are too materialistic. If you marry into our family, you'll need to be frugal and manage the household well. Filial piety. I didn't have time to listen to his endless chatter, so I hung up the phone and immediately blocked his number. After sorting out the banquet, it was time to deal with stocking up on weapons. After all, my special ability is just an assist. I still need to be prepared to confront any bad guys. This turned out to be a bit tricky. I had to pull some strings with a few friends before I finally found a way to the black market for weapons. I managed to buy 5 shotguns and 200 rounds of ammunition, as well as 10 steel crossbows and large machetes. It took quite a bit of maneuvering. On the black market, I also struggled to purchase a good amount of essential prescription drugs. I bought 5 large boxes. I loaded everything into my car and drove it to the warehouse, only then daring to transfer it into my special ability space. I only use this ability when I'm absolutely sure no one is around. To avoid any trouble before the apocalypse, in the last few days, I've spent about 30 million out of the 50 million yuan in my account, leaving me with just over 10 million. Remembering from before my rebirth about a stock that hit the upper limit for 10 consecutive days, I decided to invest all 10 million yuan into it. Continuing with enthusiasm, I stocked up on delicious foods. The next day at noon, the chefs for the banquet arrived near the warehouse I had rented. They looked at me puzzled. Miss, you said it's for a banquet, but are you getting married? It doesn't look like anyone else is here. Confidently, I replied, I'm celebrating my 30th birthday. Everyone is already inside. Just prepare the food, and I'll take it in. The chefs then started cooking fervently in the nearby tent while I hurriedly carried the dishes to the warehouse. After bringing the food inside, I quickly placed everything into my space, repeating the process. Unlike the delicate dishes of a 5-star hotel, the banquet food was fresher, more robust, and had a homely touch, offering a different kind of delicious flavor. By the end of the afternoon, I had stored 100 tables worth of banquet food in my space. Both the chefs and I were visibly tired. I declared that my 30th birthday celebration would last for 3 days, asking the chefs to come back each day, and I gave them generous red packets. Once the security company notified me that they were finished, I returned to my apartment complex, which I hadn't visited for half a month. After thoroughly inspecting everything inside and out, I was very satisfied. My small villa looked unchanged from the outside, but it had been transformed into an incredibly strong fortress. I also secretly had the security company's staff install surveillance in Jason's family's home in the same complex. I was curious to see how they would manage without my resources. Satisfied with the inspection, I was in a good mood and noticed that the supermarket downstairs had stocked my favorite cumin lamb chops and cherries. I happily bought 2 large bags to take home. On my way home, I saw Jason's mother, Eleanor, chatting with several ladies in the community garden. The ladies all sported curly hair and wore pink scarves, except for Eleanor, who stood out without a scarf. But her loud voice made up for it, echoing throughout the community. Speaking of my son, he's truly one in a million. TSK, TSK, TSK. Recently a few girls interested in matchmaking have come by, with good conditions and families, highly educated with great jobs, yet they still flock to my son. One of the ladies chuckled. Eleanor, after graduation your son didn't find a job, but it seems he's making a comeback with these matchmaking opportunities. The ladies all laughed. Eleanor clicked her tongue, about to retort, when she spotted me. With a tilted head and raised chin, she commanded, "Come here." Seeing I didn't react and continued walking, she stood up and walked over to me. Without calling my name, she haughtily said, "Jason said he's too busy to see you, but you know to come and pay respects to me first. This is your Aunt Chin, Aunt Huang." And Aunt Li, leaning closer, she lowered her voice and said to me, "Those lamb chops and cherries look good." Let's give them to the ants. It might leave a good impression." As she spoke, she began to tug at my bag, thinking she could satisfy her vanity with my good stuff. No way. Seeing that I wouldn't give in, her face started to sour, and she had no choice but to loudly exclaim to the other ladies, "Oh my, sending so many gifts for me and Jason. Jason is really making something of himself, but as for which girl he likes, how can I possibly interfere? A contest of who can be louder, is it?" I yanked my bag back forcefully. I've always been strong, and she fell flat on her face because of my pull. She couldn't get up for quite some time, hands on my hips. I shouted even louder at her, "Crazy woman, if you're broke, don't rob others. Who needs your jobless mama's boy anyway? Go back and crown yourself queen in your own house." After that, I just walked away, only to see the other ladies behind me burst into uncontrollable laughter, some even tearing up from it. The days that followed were plain, unremarkable, and dull. Recently, the news has been filled with reports of unusual weather, with temperatures in many cities hitting all-time lows. Even City A, known for its year-round spring-like climate, experienced sub-zero temperatures. However, these reports didn't garner much attention, overshadowed as usual by entertainment and economic news. Meanwhile, I visited several famous cake shops in our city and ordered thousands of cakes. I also went to dozens of barbecue stalls and ordered tens of thousands of barbecue servings. I frequented the well-known local eateries serving Sichuan, Hunan, Fujian, Shanghai cuisines, tea houses, Hong Kong-style restaurants, bakeries, home-style cooking, Japanese, Korean, Italian, French, Thai restaurants, McDonald's, KFC, pizza places, and more, based on how much my parents liked each type of food. I ordered hundreds or even thousands of servings accordingly. For instance, I ordered a few thousand servings from several top Japanese restaurants, my mother's favorite, and the same amount from my father's preferred Sichuan restaurants. I even bought 10,000 servings of hot pot base, delicious items from all over the country like spicy rabbit meat, salt and pepper duck racks, flour cakes, beef jerky, chocolate, and countless other delights were ordered by the hundreds of boxes online. What else was there? While grabbing a tender slice of yellow throat from the hot-potted Hidalgo, I pondered as several job notifications popped up on my recruitment app. The HR from the company is very interested in your resume. The HR from the company would like to chat with you. The company thinks you are outstanding. Who works during the apocalypse? I thought about dismissing these notifications, but then I saw one. Walmart is hiring a warehouse manager. I remembered that on the day of the apocalypse, due to the extreme cold, many areas in the city had power outages for several hours. This included the Walmart, meaning, during those hours, the store's surveillance and alarms were down. I recalled that after the apocalypse, due to its geographical location, Walmart was one of the first to be buried by snow and ice, making excavation extremely difficult. Considering this, letting the vast resources of the province's largest supermarket go to waste would be a shame. I immediately perked up and submitted my resume to Walmart. "Miss, with your impressive education and work experience, this job should be a breeze for you. However, we can only offer a salary of $5,000, the HR said, waiting for me to negotiate. "No problem at all. I'm happy to accept. When can I start?" I replied with a broad smile. After working for 3 days, I had a good understanding of the Walmart warehouse situation. Every time I looked at the fully stocked shelves, the corners of my mouth uncontrollably lifted. The news was incessant with reports about the cold weather. Since its establishment, City A had its first snowfall, thrilling the locals who rushed out to play, take photos, and build snowmen. As I sneezed, wrapping my scarf tighter around my neck, I only felt fear and disgust toward the cold weather, having survived the freezing apocalypse. I hurried to work, wrapping my scarf tightly. A week before the apocalypse was the day my parents had their accident in my previous life. I took a day off in advance, brought them home, and forbade them from going outside. Mom still murmured about wanting to go out and make a snowman, but I sternly refused. The TV reported accidents caused by the sudden drop in temperature as our family gathered around the dining table. We enjoyed a steaming hot pot duo. On one side, the spicy hot pot base was brought all the way from Chongqing, delivering a satisfyingly spicy kick, while on the other side, the mushroom pot simmered with fresh mushrooms air-freighted from Yunnan, unparalleled in their freshness. I ate and drank heartily, masking the unease in my heart. If we could just get through today, my parents would be fine, right? Just as the TV broadcasted news about a subway collapse, there came a rapid knocking at the door. Glancing at the door's security camera, it was indeed him, the designated deliverer of thrills in this light-hearted narrative. Here he was again, setting himself up for embarrassment. Upon closer inspection, this time Jason was backed by several middle-aged men with a tough demeanor. His face was bruised and scarred, and his mouth was bleeding. I activated the doorbell's intercom. "What's up?" Jason immediately leaned into the intercom, pleading, "Lucy, help me. A burly man behind him swatted him aside and spoke gruffly into the intercom. "You're Jason's girlfriend, right? Jason owes us $2 million. He said you're rich, so you can pay for him." I replied instantly, "I'm not his girlfriend, and I don't have any money. Goodbye." I was about to hang up the intercom. Jason struggled free and desperately pressed against the intercom. "Lucy, Lucy, I know it sounds crazy, but the apocalypse is coming. I also know about your $5 million in savings. Believe me. Just open the door, I'll explain everything. In our previous life, Jason and I were just people who had met through a matchmaking arrangement. He couldn't possibly have known about my finances. The only explanation was that he too had been reborn. Perfect. The reborn Jason was exactly the one I wanted to get back at. I put on a down jacket, wrapped myself in a thick scarf, and slowly opened the door, blocking Jason from entering. "Let's talk outside." Jason pleaded with the tough-looking men to give us a moment to talk, then pulled me aside and whispered, "Lucy, I know it's hard to believe, but I've been reborn. In our last life, we were together, and in 5 days, the temperature will drop below -50 degrees Celsius, and the apocalypse will arrive." I scoffed, my hands in my pockets. "You say you've been reborn, so how did we die?" Without hesitation, Jason said, "We were dependent on each other, very close. I always let you eat first, but we still didn't have enough food. But don't worry, I've stockpiled lots of instant noodles and canned food this time. It's just," he glanced back awkwardly, "I took out a high-interest loan from John to buy these supplies, promising to pay back in 2 weeks. I didn't expect these lenders, claiming financial strains because of the approaching new year, to demand repayment early. I only borrowed $400,000, but with compound interest. It ballooned to $2 million. Could you really expect these ruthless loan sharks to play by the rules? Lucy, help me. You have the money. I have the information. Otherwise, these people will kill me." I laughed and said, "All this talk about rebirth and apocalypse, it's just too far-fetched. I don't believe it." Then, I told the leader, "John, he's making all this up. I don't know him well, and I'm not dealing with his debts." At that moment, my parents also came out and said bluntly, "We don't know him. Close the door." Ignoring Jason's desperate pleas, we shut the door. Through the camera, I saw Jason, terrified and in tears, kneeling down as John kicked him away, and the others began to mercilessly beat him. Just as my parents were about to ask me something, a commotion erupted in the neighborhood. We curiously walked to the window and saw a crowd gathered in the activity area. Our phones were buzzing non-stop. As I checked mine, the neighborhood WeChat group was buzzing with activity as well. Everyone was eagerly sharing gossip through texts, pictures, and videos. Eleanor was bragging to a few women in the neighborhood activity area about how glorious her life was when she was an official's wife, back when Jason's father was still alive 10 years ago. However, 2 WeChat users named Ordinary Life and Prosperous Bloom were simultaneously spilling the secrets about Jason's father in the group. It turned out that when Jason's father was young and had just become a director, he started exploiting his modest powers to engage in rampant corruption, even going so far as to embezzle money meant for other people's medical expenses. When the corruption was exposed, Jason's father was stabbed to death on the street by enraged victims' families. After this, not only did Eleanor and her son Jason receive no compensation, but their property was also confiscated because it was acquired illegally. They were used to lavish spending and being flattered by everyone around them. With their bad reputation, once the scandal broke, it was like a tree falling and scattering. The monkeys, relatives, and friends turned their backs on them. Their lives fell from heaven to hell in an instant. As a housewife, Eleanor had no means to earn a living and could only survive on meager savings. Jason had developed an arrogant attitude. He didn't finish college and couldn't find a job due to his personality and lack of skills. He often said, "What are these people? Are they even worthy of my time at work? What status do I hold to do such jobs?" The two were living off their diminishing resources, making their lives increasingly difficult. Out of necessity, after selling their home in the neighborhood, they rented it back at a high price for the sake of keeping up appearances. At that moment, Eleanor was boasting, "Back in the day, even the city mayor wasn't worthy of serving my family. Ha, it's almost New Year. He should be coming to my house to give gifts." Just then, a bruised and beaten Jason was thrown in front of her. Neighbors immediately gathered around to watch the drama unfold, and someone quickly shared the scene in the neighborhood group. Eleanor shrieked, "How dare you hit someone in a lawful society? I'm calling the police." John pointed at Jason and said, "Your son owes us $2 million. It's only right to repay debts." Eleanor trembled as she took out her phone to call the police, but John smashed it with a stick, shattering it instantly. Calling the police was futile anyway, as extreme weather had severely limited police resources. Economic disputes like this were unlikely to prompt police intervention at such times. This realization terrified Eleanor even more, but she still tried to maintain her dignity, shrieking, "My late husband was..." She was cut off mid-sentence by an impatient thug who slapped her from her seat to the ground. Jason, crying, knelt down and pleaded, "Then hit me instead. Don't hit my mom." Neighbors, having heard of this family's deeds, had little sympathy for the mother and son, broadcasting the event live in the group while commenting that they deserved it and it was karma. After being severely beaten, Eleanor withdrew her last savings, about $200,000. Which of course was far from enough to cover the debt. Loan sharks took whatever they could from Jason's home, including dozens of boxes of instant noodles and canned food, before cursively leaving with a parting shot. "This is just the interest. We'll come back for the rest tomorrow." Eleanor, holding her knees, sobbed uncontrollably, ignoring Jason beside her. Meanwhile, I savored another big bowl of mushroom soup with rice as I followed the gossip. The next day, anticipating a slight warm-up, I contacted a moving company to bring my parents' belongings over for an extended New Year stay. Storing luggage and furniture in my special storage space was done in an instant, but I didn't want anyone to know before the apocalypse. The following day, I also went to the market to buy various vegetable seeds, nutritious soil, fertilizers, gardening tools, 6 pheasants, and 6 grass carp. I even ran to dozens of pharmacies across the city, buying up as much medicine as I could. After all, stored in my special space, there's no expiration date to worry about. I also stockpiled several thousand tons of drinking water. Considering the importance of mental nourishment, I purchased several hundred hard drives and downloaded a wide array of materials including classic world literature, novels, popular science, psychology, computer science, agriculture, medical science, nutrition books, classic movies, TV series, documentaries, aerobic and anaerobic fitness videos, and more locally. Due to my busy schedule, I haven't had the chance to watch Empresses in the Palace, but now that Doomsday is here, I can finally take my time with it. Recently, Jason has visited me more than a dozen times and called hundreds of times. Of course, we sent him packing each time. The day before the apocalypse, the temperature plummeted once again. Many areas in the city experienced power and water outages, and work-in classes were suspended. I timed it perfectly to sneak out during Walmart's power outage. My mother was worried. "Why are you still working at the supermarket at a time like this? We always thought it was odd you took that job. You should quit." I reassured her. "It's just a power and water outage. I'll clock in and come right back." I drove skillfully to Walmart and parked at the entrance. After making sure all surveillance was down, I used the employee backup key to open the warehouse and strolled in confidently. What greeted me was a massive warehouse claimed to be the largest in the province, capable of supplying millions of people in the city. I headed to the food section, and with a gentle effort from both hands, crates of supplies from 2 10-meter-high shelves were instantly transferred into my space. I casually strolled through the supermarket, using my special abilities with both hands, although using my abilities was quick. The supermarket was simply too large. Just wandering around took almost an hour. Besides the vast amounts of food, I also gladly tipped cold weather clothing, snowmobiles, gym equipment, essentially anything that seemed useful. When it was about time to leave, I had nearly emptied the supermarket. Exhausted, I dragged myself back to the car and floored the accelerator. As I drove away, I heard a thunderous noise behind me. The blizzard and cold had caused the ground to collapse. The area around Walmart would soon be buried under snow and ice. I sped up to 150 km/h and safely made it back to my neighborhood. As I parked, I saw Jason and Audrey, hand in hand just like before the apocalypse, appearing in the neighborhood with several bags of luggage. Audrey was pouting. "Didn't you say we were staying in a villa? How am I supposed to live in just one room?" Indeed, Jason and his family had planned to stay in my small villa. Jason awkwardly looked away, and then a loud, brash voice thundered from behind me. "Yo, Audrey's here." Eleanor, limping from an injury a few days ago, walked past me as if I were invisible. She warmly took Audrey's hand. "Audrey, I heard your rented place lost power. Auntie has been looking forward to you staying with us. Our families have been friends forever. Jason's dad always liked you. If you ask me, you are the daughter-in-law of my dreams." She looked at me smugly as she spoke, then she loudly exclaimed, "Not like those other women he meets outside." Indeed, Audrey and Jason's families were old friends, from what I knew before I was reborn. Not long after Jason's father was killed in the street, Audrey's father was jailed for corruption. I couldn't be bothered with these crazy relatives. Having overused my abilities, I was both hungry and tired and just wanted to go home. But Jason, seeing me, hurried over and grabbed my hand. "Lucy," I shook him off impatiently. "Get your dirty hands off me." Jason cautiously put his hands in his pockets. "Lucy, in our past lives, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. It's okay if you don't remember. I know you like me now. How about the 3 of us move into your place?" I was speechless and instead laughed. "Why should you move into my place?" Jason looked behind, smirked confidently, and said, "Don't be jealous of Audrey. I only see her as a sister." My mom might be tough on the outside, but she's soft on the inside. You'll like her once you get to know her. I couldn't listen anymore and just wanted to leave, but Jason kept pulling at me. Audrey wants to have a French dinner. Please treat us, all my money's been taken by loan sharks. We're all family now. I was about to curse at him when my parents rushed out of the house, pointing at Jason's family. They said firmly, "Stop bothering our daughter. Or don't blame us for being rude." I was touched and patted my parents, saying, "It's okay, let's go home." As we turned to head home, we could still hear Eleanor cursing loudly behind us. "I never liked your family to begin with," the current bureau chief once told me. "Sister-in-law, I'll always be at your service." Some of the neighborhood aunties, just back from the supermarket, watched for a while and couldn't help but laugh. Thinking about moving in with the whole family just after a matchmaking session is really something. They're just boasting again. That man has been dead on the street for many years now. Right after we got home, Eleanor's antics were recorded by a neighbor and turned into a meme, which made her curse furiously in the group chat. This added a touch of joy to the cold weather. That night, I was awoken by the cold. I dreamed that I was back before my rebirth. Cold, hungry, and on the brink of death. I woke up abruptly. Despite being under 3 layers of blankets, I could still feel the cold seeping through, chilling my organs as if they were freezing. Having survived the icy apocalypse, I had a greater fear of extreme cold than most. I checked my phone and found that the temperature had plummeted by 30 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees overnight. Many people were awoken by the cold, my teeth chattering, both from cold and fear. I hurriedly turned on the heating for the whole house. As the temperature inside gradually increased, I felt waves of warmth enveloping my body, soothing the chilling fear. For someone who had endured months of bitter cold during the ice apocalypse, nothing could bring more happiness than warmth. In this warmth, sleepiness overcame me again, and I drifted off contentedly. "Baby, stop sleeping. Everyone's saying the temperature has dropped to minus 50 degrees Celsius." My parents woke me up early in the morning. I pulled aside the curtain to see heavy snow outside, piling up several meters high. "How did you think to install underfloor heating? What's going on?" they asked. Because City A is a southern city where winter temperatures hardly drop below 10 degrees, normally people just install air conditioning with heating. I sat them down and seriously told them about Rebirth and the apocalypse. My parents were shocked. After they had somewhat digested the information, I showed them my space-manipulating abilities, which amazed them even more. But after understanding everything, my mom felt much relieved. Seeing all the food in the kitchen, I was worried we could only last a few weeks. "With your ability, I really feel much more at ease," I nodded. "Plus the supplies we got from Walmart. Our family of 3 can eat freely for many generations." My parents showed a relieved expression. After a while, my dad added, "We must keep this a secret from outsiders. It could bring trouble." I nodded vigorously. Before my rebirth, it was these neighbors who stole my food, especially Jason and Eleanor. "We must be very careful this time." I then showed them the house's security features, and they praised me for being well prepared. I held their hands tightly. This time, our family must make it through. In the morning, none of us felt like cooking. So I demonstrated how I could pull various meals out of my space, letting my parents choose, whether it was a Western brunch, McDonald's, or KFC breakfast, soy milk with fried dough sticks, or plain porridge with side dishes. It was all available. In the end, my mom chose Cantonese dim sum, which I had ordered 10,000 portions from the city's most famous tea house. I took out 1 portion, and there were still 999 left. We enjoyed hot rice noodle rolls, radish cakes, shrimp dumplings, chicken feet, glutinous rice chicken, red rice sausages, and barbecue pork buns, accompanied by a pot of tea. The TV broadcasted news, reporting that extreme cold weather had hit globally. The minus 50 degrees Celsius in City A was relatively mild. Other places were even colder. Global transportation was paralyzed, as roads were buried under snow. This meant that people could no longer go out to find food. In the community chat group, people expressed their concerns. Some optimistically thought the extreme weather would pass quickly, others were happy about not having to go to school or work, and some pessimistically thought it was the end of the world. Of course, the optimists were in the majority. 5 days later, looking out the window, the snow had piled up thick outside and was still falling. Most residents had run out of food supplies, and amidst the severe cold and hunger, they awaited rescue that seemed never to arrive. My phone was filled with messages of fear, despair, and pleas for help. Doomsday theories were rampant, and suicides had become frequent in many areas. In the warmth of my room, I was enjoying a bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall, a dish I had taken from a special storage space. It was made in the traditional way, brimming with luxurious ingredients like abalone, sea cucumber, king oyster mushrooms, tendons, shiitake mushrooms, squid, and quail eggs. The soup was rich and aromatic. Hearty yet not overly greasy. I was watching Empresses in the Palace on the large TV, specifically the Ganlu Temple episode, and couldn't help but feel a bit bored. When Will Jinhuan returned to the palace, I wondered. In the community chat group, everyone was sharing how their food supplies were running low or nearly gone, with the price of a packet of instant noodles skyrocketing to over 100 times its usual cost. My house has only a little rice left. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Does anyone have any food? Even a packet of noodles would do. Please, I'm begging, I chimed in, following the trend. I've run out of food too, so hungry. After sending the message, I decided to continue indulging myself with a sweet and soft cheesecake. Suddenly, an unexpected message popped up. It was from Eleanor. My son had the foresight. We still have plenty of noodles and canned food. She attached a photo. It showed a small room in the storeroom, with dozens of boxes, either open or sealed, filled with food that everyone currently craved. I couldn't help but laugh. Wasn't this like flaunting wealth in a market full of thieves? I had learned all about these ruthless neighbors in my past life, but hadn't Jason's supplies been completely looted? How had he managed to stock up so much food? With this thought, I opened the surveillance I had secretly installed in Jason's house and saw him carefully checking the door to the storeroom. It turned out he had built a hidden door, inconspicuous enough to hide all that food. Jason was indeed a man with plans. In another camera feed, Eleanor, laughing uncontrollably in her room during a video call, was being flattered by a neighbor known for her bootlicking. Eleanor, you are truly blessed to have such delicious food at this time. You make all the sisters in the neighborhood jealous. We've always said that your son Jason is the most promising of all our children. The flattery went on, making my toes curl in disgust. Eventually, the neighbor awkwardly asked for some food. Eleanor, lost in the praise, agreed easily. Sure, come over later and pick it up. Suddenly, Jason burst out angrily, startling Eleanor into a frozen smile. Jason grabbed the phone and smashed it on the ground, shouting at Eleanor. How many times have I told you not to talk about our supplies outside? You boasting in the group chat is insane. Stunned, Eleanor took a moment to realize what was happening before bursting into tears. My son, how can you speak to your mother like this? Since your father left, I've had no one to talk to, and I was so happy today, giving some food to Aunt Chin. What's wrong with that? Jason, unable to contain his anger, retorted. Aunt Chin has always laughed at you behind your back. Even her son made those mocking memes about you. Why help them? Eleanor, sobbing uncontrollably on the bed, cried out, you unfilial son, since your father passed, I've not had a single good day. Today, having so many people speak kindly to me felt like the old times, and you blame me. Audrey, trying to mediate, also looked distressed. Auntie, Jason has told you so many times not to talk about it outside. Why won't you listen? Eleanor immediately found her target, pointing at Audrey and screaming, you vixen, seducing my son to forget his mother. In the past, Eleanor had also distributed our family supplies like this. These neighbors would first sweet-talk her and trick her out of plenty of supplies, and later they directly barged into our house to rob us. This scene replayed itself again. Soon, a dozen neighbors gathered at Jason's house, knocking on the door for food. Eleanor wiped away her tears, and with a stiff neck, said to Jason, it must be Aunt Chin at the door. I promised to share some food with her. We have so much food at home. What's wrong with sharing some? Jason was so angry he was lost for words. Ignoring Eleanor's curses, he left the room and locked her inside. He ignored the neighbors outside and together with Audrey, they blocked the door with heavy objects. I also heard Jason muttering to himself, it's impossible to reason with Mom. After the apocalypse, Eleanor never had to worry about food or clothing. And people who had not experienced the apocalypse indeed found it hard to truly understand their situation. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel how sensible my own parents were. The neighbors were all wrapped in several layers of clothing, probably wearing everything they could, yet their faces were still pale with cold as they pleaded with Jason to open the door and give them some food. Auntie Instant Noodles squeezed her way to Jason's doorstep, pressing her face against the door and shouted with a forced smile, Sister Eleanor, it's me. Jason and Audrey remained silent, acting as if they heard nothing, and Eleanor's voice couldn't be heard from inside the room. Auntie Instant Noodles and the other neighbors pleaded, played the sympathy card, and even morally blackmailed him. Seeing that it was useless, their voices gradually became angry and they started cursing at Jason's family, even making threats, but it was all in vain. The sub-zero weather was unbearable. After a while, one of the ants nearly fainted, and the others were clearly running out of energy, so they dispersed. I was woken up in the early morning by noise that seemed to be coming from Building 18, where Jason lived. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I turned on the surveillance and saw a dozen neighbors gathered at Jason's doorstep. The bald man leading them looked like Jonathan, someone I knew who, before being reborn. used to rob people for food and had recently been released from prison. He had some underlings with him. This time, they didn't come empty-handed. They were holding kitchen knives, machetes, and clubs, and were digging at the walls of Jason's house. The three inside the house were already awake. Jason and Audrey quickly armed themselves with machetes and clubs, apparently prepared beforehand. Eleanor, terrified, crouched in a corner too afraid to speak. With a loud bang, a large hole was made in the wall of Jason's house. Jonathan signaled, and immediately one of his underlings pushed a young man to crawl through first. He had barely made it halfway when he let out a hysterical scream. Jason had boiled a pot of hot oil and poured it over the intruder. Watching this, my face turned pale. This was a method I had thought of before the rebirth, but Jason had stopped me, saying, "How could you think of such a malicious idea? You have no kindness in your heart." He wouldn't let me use the oil, and as a result, our food was stolen. Now, he was no longer kind. The hot oil would eventually run out, and then it was hand-to-hand combat. After a chaotic fight, with the absolute advantage of numbers and experience, and Eleanor almost hindering their efforts, Jason's side was overwhelmed. Their secret door, earlier boasted about by Eleanor to anti-instant noodles, was exploited by the aunt's son to find Jason's stash of a large amount of food. Jason was pinned down by several young men, his face full of despair and frustration. Jonathan was very pleased with the loot, and while looking at the subdued trio, he cold-heartedly said to Jason, "Young man, your mom and your girlfriend, you can only choose one. I'm taking one person away." At this moment, Eleanor seemed spirited again, cooing, "Son, shut up," Jason shouted, almost choking on his own spit in anger. "I'm begging you. Take my mom away. Anywhere is fine. I don't want to see this foolish woman ever again." No words could describe Eleanor's expression. Always loving her son dearly, she looked as if all her vitality had been drained, her face a mix of disbelief, despair, confusion, and pain. "Wait a minute," Audrey said, looking directly at Jonathan. "I'll go with you." "What's so surprising?" Audrey smiled at Jason. "I stayed here because your house had a lot of food. But now you have none, and it's even difficult for you to survive. I choose to be with someone more powerful. What's the problem with that?" After she finished speaking, she stood up with ease and affectionately linked arms with Jonathan. Everyone was stunned by this change. Personally, I think that although Audrey is ruthless, she is still very clear-headed. From that day on, Eleanor fell ill and never recovered. In the icy apocalypse, it was already difficult for the elderly with poor health to survive. With a lack of medicine and food, she endured a tough time. Jason left her alone in the room, letting her wail from morning till night, unwilling to even glance at her. Why isn't he showing his filial piety now? A few days later, Eleanor's cries could no longer be heard. I didn't expect Audrey to return to Jason's house. Audrey knocked on the door, crying out, "Brother, Jonathan and the others. They bullied me and abandoned me again. I've come back to you. Can you please open the door?" I saw that after Eleanor's death, a spark finally appeared in Jason's dull eyes. He got up to open the door without much hesitation. He looked at Audrey, his eyes reddened and lips trembling, about to embrace her. Then Jonathan, along with a few of his men, ambushed from behind the door. They pinned Jason down firmly, and, just like what happened to me before the rebirth, they took axes and kitchen knives and began chopping at him. Audrey giggled. "Can you leave the legs for me? I haven't had meat in so long." I didn't want to witness such a bloody scene, so I immediately turned off the surveillance. Later on, even Audrey and Jonathan didn't survive the winter, and slowly, there were no signs of living people in the community. Of course, when the snow began to melt slightly, many went out in search of new life. During this time, to my surprise, my parents both awakened their own special abilities. My mother's ability turned out to be transforming into a giant, tank-like shield of flesh, and my father's was much more elegant. He possessed abilities related to ice and snow magic. Later, we learned that all over, individuals with special abilities emerged, and ordinary people without such abilities became rare during the icy apocalypse. We also left the home where we had been hiding for a long time, to meet the outside world. A whole new world, and I am the Madonna, or rather, the Madonna of the apocalypse. I've heard that in times of doom, the Madonna is often the first to be sacrificed, yet, whenever I act in accordance with the Madonna's behavior, the system rewards me doubly. However, there are two major rules I must follow. First, I must not break character, and second, I must not explain. One day, I found myself mysteriously transported to a post-apocalyptic world. Society had collapsed, skyscrapers lay in ruins, and mutated creatures roamed everywhere. Humans could only survive by erecting defensive walls against monster attacks. That day, I followed a squad gathering supplies to an abandoned hospital. I was sure I could find food there because I had just given my own food to a girl I recognized as my sister in the defensive city. Sure enough, I hadn't gone far when I found 4 cans of beef in the pharmacy. I wasn't worried about their expiration date, as the system only gives positive rewards. So any food or medicine I find is guaranteed to be good. Seeing no one around, I quickly ate 2 cans and hid the other 2. For a long time, I had been consistently playing the role of the Madonna, but I later realized that hoarding supplies when alone didn't break my character since my persona was meant for others to see, and it didn't count as breaking if no one saw it. Hearing footsteps approaching, I quickly turned on my flashlight, pulled open a drawer, and rummaged for a box of medicine in the corner, but before I could even see the name of the medicine, it was snatched away. Painkillers, mine now. It was Aurora, my delicate adopted sister. Since I couldn't break character, I generously let her have the medicine. She inspected it back and forth, wiped off the dust, and pocketed it, not forgetting to taunt me, "Sister. The leader said that anyone who doesn't find something useful today will be banished. Are you really giving this to me?" "It's okay, you take it," I said. Honestly, I was more than happy to give it to her. I even wanted to give her the 2 cans of beef, but this was a hospital, and if I carelessly produced something so obviously unreasonable, they would surely accuse me of hoarding supplies. The penalty for hoarding supplies was severe, involving whipping, and repeat offenders would be exiled beyond the defensive walls. In this lawless, power-centralized apocalypse, each defensive wall's leader was like a tyrant with absolute control over their territory. Ignoring Aurora's mockery, I bypassed her and searched another room. Why did I consider Aurora my sister? Because although foolish, she was undeniably beautiful. She was the leader's lover and favored by him. By ingratiating myself with her, my residence was not inspected. Moreover, this fool was always competing with me for resources. I had no choice but to give in, whatever I wanted to gain double of. I had to. All it takes is a little provocation, and she'll immediately ask for it, even if she doesn't need it at all. Today, I casually walked into a room and effortlessly found 3 vials of antibiotics with a syringe next to them. Just as I was appreciating how considerate the system was, it was time to gather. After smudging a bit of dirt on the antibiotics, I returned inside the defense wall with everyone. We were lucky today. We didn't encounter any mutated monsters, but sometimes our own kind can be the scariest. Our scavenging team consisted of 24 people, 14 of whom brought back medicine. Those who brought back bandages, tweezers, and scalpels passed if the quantity was approved by the leader. If the quantity was too small or deemed useless, they would be exiled by the leader. For instance, a 63-year-old man with mobility issues who only managed to bring back a few packs of cotton balls and gauze was ordered to be banished by the leader. The leader, holding the register, called out the old man's name and then pointed towards the city gate. The old man collapsed on the ground, clutching his patched-up trousers. Seeing this, I smeared some mud on my face and approached the old man. "Leader, I found 2 vials of antibiotics. I can share one with him." The leader, seated in a high chair, looked at me sideways. I knew he didn't like my personality, but since I always managed to find useful supplies, he couldn't criticize me openly. "Bella, where did you find these antibiotics?" I hadn't expected the leader to ask this, and momentarily at a loss for words, I glanced at Aurora. "Oh, brother, she found them in the pharmacy room. I was right there with her. I found painkillers, and she found antibiotics. It's that simple," Aurora explained, looping her arm through the leader's. With a flirtatious smile, the leader closed the register, patted Aurora's hand, and then told me, "Bella, antibiotics are extremely scarce in this world and can earn a lot of points." "I know, and I'm willing to share." "Then it's up to you." The leader flicked his hand dismissively and walked away with Aurora, who turned back to give me a smug smile. After they walked away, I helped the old man up. "Bella, thank you. It's nothing. Don't mention it." I escorted the old man home, but his children took the opportunity to play the sympathy card. "Bella, look at this useless old man of ours, dragging you down again." Yes, it's already fall, and he doesn't even have decent clothes." I furrowed my brow, watching their performance. "Bella, everyone says you're a great benefactor. You see, yes, Bella, you're rare, beautiful, kind-hearted, and always helping others." As the old man's children laid it on thick, I saw my chance and pretended to be moved. "All right, this time, I'll also give my points to the old man." Hearing this, the 3 of them immediately knelt before me. I slightly curled my lips, choosing not to say anything more. As I walked home, I kept my eyes on the sun. During the material handover earlier, I had only submitted 2 antibiotics. I needed to retrieve the remaining 1 and 2 cans of beef under the cover of night. Hoarding supplies was risky since the collection team was checked upon returning to the city. However, thanks to my connections with Aurora and my reputation as a saintly white lotus, I wasn't searched and passed the inspection smoothly. After getting through, I took the opportunity to bury the hoarded supplies beneath a flower bed. As for the point system devised by the leader's think tank, it was a clever strategy. Our fortress housed over 10,000 people, making food and basic necessities significant issues. Who consumed more or less had to be measured by a standard, contribution points, colloquially known as extra points. My points were always among the lowest, yet it didn't stop me from having enough food and clothing. On my way back to my room, I incredibly found 5 antibiotics in a dog bowl, holding a room heater, and delighted. I tucked the antibiotics into my pocket. It was thrilling to think I had successfully performed 2 saintly acts on an old man. After hiding the items at home, the neighbor lady leaned by my window and handed me a pancake. Eating it, I remembered giving her 500 points, which she had exchanged for a bag of flour, lasting her 3 months without complaint. She was one of the few genuinely kind people I knew, unbreakable except by concerns for her son. At that moment, the neighbor lady hesitated as if she wanted to say something. Didn't encounter any monsters today, did you? You're not hurt, are you? Bella, about that. Your son is going out to collect supplies tomorrow, right? I understood what she meant. Yes, there was work to be done. In our city, besides the routine jobs, everyone from age 10 to 80 had to take turns going out to collect supplies. Even Aurora wasn't exempt. This was another clever yet unfair strategy devised by the leader's think tank. The old, weak, sick, and disabled often didn't return. They were either killed by monsters or murdered by comrades over stolen supplies. Survival was not easy. The neighbor lady nervously wrung her hands, urgently saying, Bella, you know it's a serious crime to steal from a comrade, but my son is just 11. He can't compete with the others. And to destroy the evidence, they might kill him on the way back. Don't worry, I'll go for him. Such were the brutal survival rules of this post-apocalyptic world. After nightfall, using the darkness for cover, I retrieved the cans and medicines back to my room, and my room was no ordinary place. Our fortress was crowded and chaotic, with everyone except the leading figures living in squalor. Due to my excellent scavenging skills, the leader valued me highly, despite my low points. He had still assigned me a room. The house had a charming sunlit garden and 2 floors. Unexpectedly, Aurora took an interest in this house. The very night that I gave it up to her, I discovered a massive apocalypse-safe house beneath my cramped room. Who would have thought that beneath a nondescript, shabby house in a poor neighborhood, there lay an expansive safe house? Initially, it was just an empty room, and I had to stock it with supplies myself. Fortunately, thanks to Aurora, who competed with me for everything: wooden stakes, fertilizer, algae, small fish, seeds, I was ultimately able to establish a self-sustaining ecosystem within the safe house. Now, looking around, the shelves of my safe house are mostly filled. Before leaving the city the next day, I used my remaining credits to buy a small knife. However, it was soon borrowed by someone, as they knew I was too naive to refuse. As I had expected, I soon found a handgun just outside. Today's destination was dangerous, a large supermarket where a team of over 100 had gone before and none survived, but we needed supplies, so we had to go. Upon arriving at the supermarket, everyone dispersed with their temporary squad leaders. As for me, I always did things my own way. With strong scavenging skills and good luck, I wasn't assigned to any team and could search on my own. I glanced around the dim surroundings, my hands empty, feeling a bit nervous. Not every attempt at playing the saint worked out. For instance, I had accidentally revealed the handgun I'd found, and naturally, it was borrowed, but their skepticism was understandable. I hadn't shown the gun at all on the way to the supermarket, so why would it suddenly appear there? Moreover, given the supermarket's dangers, even I wouldn't give up my life-saving weapon, because of my teammates' doubts. The system judged my saintly behavior as unsatisfactory. This time, I really lost out. Thankfully, I had a system barrier to keep me alive, but it was crucial that no one saw this barrier. I entered the sporting goods section and found little of use after searching back and forth. Between the teetering shelves, I managed to find a baseball bat. I noticed a little girl not far behind me and thought about using her to trade the baseball bat for a more useful weapon. I tried to make my expression more benevolent as I prepared to start my saintly act. Just then, noises from the ceiling grew louder and faster. Suddenly, a group of mutated rats, each as big as a goat with sharp teeth and swift movements, leaped from a ventilation duct in the distance. They hunted in packs, a particularly fearsome sight. I suddenly noticed a hole near the little girl, and at its entrance, a mutated rat with glowing green eyes was glaring menacingly. Then, screams filled the supermarket. Sounds of impacts and gunfire echoed intermittently. Without a second thought, I sprinted to the little girl's side. Shielding her securely beneath me, the mutant rat that had attacked us lay dead on the ground, emitting a foul stench. It had fatally collided with my barrier. The creature was hideously ugly in life and even more so in death. I comforted the little girl, and after she nodded, I handed her a baseball bat. While protecting her, I had covered her eyes to spare her from the gruesome sight. Now, clutching the hem of my shirt, she seemed to trust me completely. Soon enough, A second mutant rat emerged from a burrow, its body low and eyes fixed on me. It let out a shriek and charged. I dodged, holding the girl, and thankfully, the rat crashed into a storage cabinet behind me, from which an AK fell out. Just in time, I picked up the AK and turned the approaching rat into a sieve, followed by a third and a fourth. After the horde of rats retreated, I checked all the cabinets and found a box of magazines. When we returned to the city, everyone envied my AK and came asking for it. I found the perfect excuse that maintained my character without having to give up the AK. I need to protect this little girl. She's only 10 and it's her first scavenging run. We soon reached the city. Everyone was shocked to see me with the AK, but the little girl stumbled through her account of the events. The leader, with a smile, stepped down from the podium and said, "Bella, you may make a request. What do you want?" Looking at the little girl still clinging to my shirt, I stroked her head and said, "I have no demands, just let me handle all her future scavenging tasks." Everyone reacted in a way that fit their characters, some with disdain, some with doubt, some with disdain, and some with shock. In the end, the leader awarded me 3,000 points, unsurprisingly. I used the reason of comforting the little girl to give 2,500 to her family. They were very grateful, thanking me profusely. As I walked home, I could find a brand new oxygen generator just by rummaging through a trash can. Once home, I sealed the doors and windows and went down to the safety of my underground shelter. Along the way, I wondered why I hadn't received my reward for substituting for the neighbor's child. Puzzled, I looked at the safe house's keypad. It turned out the system had upgraded my security level. My safe house now featured biometric recognition, accessible only to me and those I authorized. Life in the safe house was comfortable and pleasant. Outside, people fought over a ragged coat hung in the alley, while I used 5 silk quilts as mattress pads. At that moment, the roast duck was ready in the oven, and I was about to enjoy it, wearing gloves. Ding, ding, the system alarm went off inappropriately, signaling that enemies were approaching. I removed my gloves and changed into my filthy combat suit. Atop the city walls, the leader, with a telescope in hand and a furrowed brow, commanded, "Bella, retrieve the AK you turned in a couple of days ago." Understood. I slung the rifle over my shoulder and borrowed the leader's telescope for a look, only to be startled by the sight of a horde of mutated wolves. These creatures, now the size of juvenile elephants, were far more mutated than any mutant rats. They had 3 eyes, fangs like tigers, claws like lions, and were brutally ferocious and bloodthirsty. All the city's defensive weapons were now amassed on the city walls. The leader had even collected cooking oil from every household, preparing for a fight to the death. Soon, a major battle was imminent. To conserve ammunition, I aimed for the wolves' eyes within shooting range. Among our arsenal were 4 powerful cannons, the strongest weapons we had. When fired, the cannons instantly blew up a dozen mutated wolves. The pack howled and surged forward relentlessly. Despite the sheer number of wolves, even after our cannon ammo was depleted, they did not cease their assault. The wolves began to pile up, seemingly trying to climb the walls. The leader made a swift decision to order the oil to be ignited. Soon, the wolves clinging to the walls were set ablaze. Just when we thought the tide had turned, the wolves launched a full-scale attack. Reports of ammunition depletion kept coming, and the most aggressive wolf was now only 3 meters away. The leader, initially wielding a long sword, now dropped it to the ground. He sat on the steps, cradling his head in despair. "Bella, if you can, shoot me when they break through." Clutching my AK, which still had about a dozen rounds left, I glanced at my home in the slums. With the AK and the system barrier, I should be able to escape back to the safe house. I was about to flee when suddenly someone excitedly shouted, "Leader, look, the wolves are retreating." I lay on the wall, and only after confirming the wolves' retreat did I lean back on a pillar, relieved. The feeling of surviving such an ordeal was so intense it made me feel faint-hearted. The leader kept watching through the telescope as the mutated wolves retreated. "The monsters have run far away." Hearing the leader say the monsters had distanced themselves, everyone finally relaxed their tense nerves. The distance was so great that even the telescope couldn't spot them anymore. Everyone exchanged smiles and sat on the steps to rest. The wind carried a strange scent, fluttering the leader's homemade flag, telling a story of a narrow escape from death. Suddenly, someone knocked on the defensive gate below the city wall. This unexpected sound startled everyone, their faces pale as they tensed up once again. The city walls and the gate, both made of brick and stone, looked identical. However, for the sake of clarity, a large character gate was painted on the city gate to distinguish it from the wall. From the perspective of the mutated creatures, the city wall and gate appeared exactly the same. No one but humans could ring the bell at the city gate marked with the word door. Thinking of this, I said softly, "They are humans, let them in." However, my light remark was met with curses from everyone. "Are you crazy? The wolves just left." "Bella, are you out of your mind? They're clearly strangers." No squad went out today, even if they were our own. We shouldn't open the gate. Martyrdom now, of all times, will only get us killed. I've always found her pretentious, always putting on airs. Under the strain, my words made everyone irritable. Ignoring the insults thrown at me, I went to the gate on my own and began to open the stone door. Because of my role, I couldn't falter. I had to let the survivors outside come in. As I descended from the city wall, everyone clenched their fists and glared at me. One of them even raised a gun and ordered me to close the gate. God damn it, lower the stone door now. The leader stared at me intensely but did not stop the infighting among his subordinates. The man with the gun had already released the safety and began to aim at me. The others also silently raised their weapons, pointing them at me. Suddenly, a pistol misfired, striking near my feet. I dropped my gun and abandoned those impractical thoughts, ready to plead with my companions. Stop arguing. We are humans, just two of us, and the wolves have retreated. The standoff had been tense, but this voice was so unexpected that it left everyone too scared to move. The voice came from a man outside the stone door, which was only open a sliver, wide enough to show 4 feet, clearly 2 people. The leader lifted the gate but did not say to keep it closed. As the stone door opened further, the full figures of the men became visible to everyone. People snapped out of their daze, and in an instant, a dozen guns were aimed at the 2 outsiders. Seeing this, the 2 men immediately raised their hands in surrender, saying, "We helped you drive away the wolves." Hearing this, everyone was dumbstruck and at a loss for words. However, the leader gestured for them to come in and said, "Let's talk inside." Ultimately, thanks to my insistence, 2 dusty and unkempt men entered our fortified city. The leader straightened up and asked the 2 men, "The wolf pack you dispersed, what do you mean by that?" One of the men, somewhat cleaner than the other, pulled out a black glass bottle and explained, "This contains pheromones, a type of chemical weapon. If used upwind, a few bottles can disperse weaker mutant beasts. They are extracted from mutant lions and can suppress many types of beasts." "I see. How many bottles did you bring?" 10 bottles. We just used 4. The leader reached out his hand and said, "Hand them over." After the man handed over all the pheromones, he respectfully stepped back to his original place. The leader examined the potion, sniffing it vigorously, and seemed to consider the sudden retreat of the mutant wolves. His mood instantly lifted, treating the potion like a treasure. He securely placed it in a box. After finishing up, he returned to the central city area, leaving behind a crowd of people looking bewildered at each other. "What should we do with these 2 men? Let's leave them to Mother Bella. It's her problem. Let's go." In the end, I had no choice but to take the 2 strangers home with me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that their gazes were somewhat odd. When we got home, I offered them 2 old, rickety stools. "What are your names?" The cleaner-looking man answered first. "I'm Joseph," the other said. "I'm Julian." I nodded, accidentally noticing their grimy bundles, hearing their stomachs growl, and feeling hungry myself. I went next door to borrow 3 meals from the elder sister. I ate my humble meal in front of them, pretending it was fine, but inside I craved the exquisite tastes of the food I had underground, making a sad attempt at eating. Joseph quietly ate his flatbread and wild vegetable soup, calm and unhurried, not seeming like someone who had been deprived of proper meals for a long time. Julian, on the other hand, fiddled with his food just like I did, looking around without much appetite. "This place is pretty shabby, isn't it?" Julian remarked. "Julian, shut up and eat," Joseph chided. I waved it off. "It's okay, it really is shabby." After dinner, Joseph and Julian asked me some bizarre questions. I didn't answer seriously, my mind was elsewhere. Eventually, I bluntly stated that the place was too small for 3 people and it wasn't proper for men and women to live together, but they shockingly refused to leave. At one point, I even felt they might have had ulterior motives towards me. Indeed, I am quite attractive, which is probably why Aurora always targets me. Now, since they didn't understand my hints, and my personal principles wouldn't allow me to turn them away, I simply made the bed wider and let them stay for the night. After laying out the bedding, I was about to leave when Joseph suddenly grabbed my hand. "Where are you going? If it's too much trouble, you take the bed." I doubted my eyes. I saw a look of concern in the face of a man I had only known for a few hours. "No, I'm just going out for a bit. I'll be back later." Chasing the 2 strangers out was one thing, but I was more concerned about the reward the system had given me for today's saintly act, which was truly thrilling. I walked and observed, growing increasingly frantic, no supplies to be found anywhere, which was unusual. Could it be another upgrade at the safe house? Since there were outsiders present, I couldn't check my reward yet, so I had to return home reluctantly, but as soon as I arrived, I was infuriated by the scene before me. The floor was wet, steam rose from the pot, the water tank was empty, and the coal was nearly gone. "You actually used the coal I was saving to give to someone else?" And that water was for drinking, not for you to wash. Wait a minute, could the two handsome guys in front of me really be those two scruffy men from earlier? Julian paused from drying his hair and looked at me innocently. Joseph took a cup, thoroughly washed it several times, filled it with hot water, and handed it to me, saying, "Don't be mad, it wasn't on purpose." I took the cup, waved my hand dismissively, and let it go. In this post-apocalyptic world, coal and purified water are crucial resources, essential for maintaining my Madonna image. Trading a piece of coal could get you a bottle of oil, and a bottle of water could fetch a bucket of water. Over time, this has allowed my safe house to become ever more stocked. Even though it wasn't cold, I still sat by the stove to warm up by the fire. Julian came over and started ranting about the rules and order of our defensive city. And that leader. We only pretended to respect him because he's so petty. Joseph coughed twice, interrupting Julian as he was getting more agitated. He topped up my cup with hot water and came to sit next to me. He spoke frankly, saying that coal is essentially just thermal energy. It's inefficient when burned and could be replaced by cleaner alternatives, like solar, wind, or tidal energy. As for pure water, it could be produced by purifying groundwater or seawater, or even by burning hydrogen. Joseph spoke in a gentle voice, quite emotionally stable as he explained everything. I threw a lump of coal into the stove, watching the warm orange glow, feeling somewhat disheartened. We rely on burning coal for heating and generating electricity. Transitioning to clean energy won't be easy, especially since everyone has grown accustomed to it. Hearing this, Julian rubbed his hands together and exclaimed loudly, "If we don't change, we're doomed. Your defense system is trash compared to mine." Joseph elbowed Julian in the chest, cutting off his rant. That's when I noticed the new badges on their shirts, the same insignia I had seen on an AK I picked up from the supermarket. At that moment, a bold thought struck me. Maybe these two really could change the city. All right, I'll introduce you to the leader tomorrow. The next day, I took Joseph and Julian to the leader's residence. Finally alone, I joyfully planned whether to indulge in a pedal bath or feast heartily first. As I was leaving, boundaryless Joseph grabbed me, bombarding me with his odd questions. "Do you really not remember me? How long do you plan to keep this up? Ridiculous." I shook off Joseph's hand, but he grasped it again, his eyes tenderly shining as he handed me a small, exquisite box. When I got home, I locked the doors and windows and opened the box. Inside was a beautifully crafted necklace. I tossed the necklace on the table. Such artifacts were useless in a post-apocalyptic world. I went down to the safe house and checked everything carefully, but neither the supplies nor the level of security had changed. This was wrong. I had saved two people with a virtuous act, and the system hadn't deemed it unacceptable. So why hadn't I received anything? Disheartened, I went back upstairs. The out-of-place necklace lay quietly on the table. Recalling the way Joseph looked at me, I scoffed at myself. Was my reward supposed to be two male engineers? I kicked over a broken stool in frustration. What a broken system. I wanted supplies, not useless men. Months later, I grudgingly accepted the system's gift. The arrival of Joseph and Julian truly was a blessing. They first improved the boiler to enhance its heating efficiency, then used steam to drill deep wells, and even created a purification system to filter the well water. Today, they were installing blades on the city tower to convert wind into electrical energy. I passed Julian a wrench, unable to help but praise them. "I didn't expect you to be so useful." Julian, facing the light with a radiant smile, replied, "We could even set up nuclear power if you had the right elements and materials here. You guys are really impressive." Of course, I glanced at the setting sun and stretched my neck, relieved that after a long day, I could finally rest. Joseph took off his dirty gloves and grabbed my hand. "Where are you heading?" Without hesitation, I replied, "To do some good." Joseph looked at me with a complex expression for a long while, then said only one thing, "Don't overdo it, make sure to rest." I nodded and walked away. Mr. Gua, the gatekeeper in his 40s with 15 children, held the record for the most offspring in the city. The leader had a policy. 5,000 points per child. Mr. Gua, like a gambler, kept having children and kept earning rewards. Whenever it was the turn of his young children to go out and gather supplies, he would have the older ones go, or simply ask me to take their place. Tomorrow, it was the turn of his son who had just turned 10. Unsurprisingly, when Mr. Gua saw me passing by, he dropped to his knees, pleading for my mercy. I frowned, pretending to be troubled, while he clasped his hands together and spoke of the hardships faced by a 10-year-old boy. I helped him up and agreed to his request. Looking at his beer belly, I felt a chill. He seemed to have forgotten that he was the first to raise a long rifle and pointed at my head at the city gate. The next day, we ventured to search the containers at the harbor. It was a success. I found a set of tools and a first aid kit. Before that, I had intentionally given my necklace to Aurora. I hid the first aid kit all over my body and handed over the toolbox. Due to the changes in the defense of the city, the leader was pleased. At night, he lit a bonfire and danced with a few beauties. The frozen meat sizzled under the flames. Joseph, holding a chicken wing sprinkled with salt, offered it to me, but I frowned and didn't take it. Bella, what's wrong? Lighting a fire at night is very dangerous. Julian, holding a beer, scoffed. It's just that your defense city is too primitive. Everyone lives in constant fear. I stirred the fire, listening to Julian's drunken truths, and didn't respond. After the bonfire party, I personally extinguished the flames with a bucket of water. Joseph sneakily gave me 2 roasted sweet potatoes and suggested visiting my home. I threw the sweet potatoes back at him and gave him a piece of my mind, seeing Julian by the side both vomiting and laughing. I applied the guilt by association and scolded the innocent Julian as well. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment action, but a deliberate one. Lately, I had been too close to them, so close that they insisted on helping me renovate my house. In a post-apocalyptic world, there are no kinships, and these were clever strangers. My safe house must remain undiscovered. For the next few days, I ignored Joseph and Julian, and they wisely didn't presume to help me as they had before, filling in for Mr. Gui's son in the gathering. The system rewarded me with a box of broad-spectrum insecticide, and there it was, my vegetable garden thriving under the artificial sun. I was munching on chips, playing video games in front of an 82-inch screen, occasionally tending to my fish, growing tomatoes, and caring for flowers. Outside, the floods were raging, but I remained steadfast and unmoved. I carried the title of the ascetic Madonna, day after day, month after month. That day, like any other, I put on my modest clothes, carrying the rice I had exchanged from our leader, and deliberately passed by the house of Zhang, the security guard. Zhang was responsible for body searches. His household included 2 daughters, both under 10 years old. He was under a lot of stress. His wife had been suddenly attacked by mutant rats and dragged underground. His elderly parents were at home too, living meal to meal. Lately, he had been pointedly praising me for my beauty and kindness. I understood his intentions, but protocols had to be followed. Before I helped someone, I always weighed their worth, even if they were as greedy as old Mengua. Zhang was repulsive. His hands wandered during searches, particularly over young women, provoking silent outrage among us all. As I was carrying the rice, just as I turned the corner, I was unexpectedly pulled into a dark alley by Joseph. He gripped my hand, demanding, "Why do you always put yourself at risk?" Once I saw who it was, I pushed him away. "Joseph, you're overstepping. That's just my nature." "Nature? What kind of nature? Being a rotten do-gooder, a fake Madonna. That's not the real you." The words fake Madonna hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know how he had figured me out, but he was dangerous. Perhaps my look provoked him, as he seriously said, "The rules of this city are wrong. You should be self-sufficient, not venturing into dangerous territories for supplies." Easier said than done. The land here is barren and too small to yield much crop. If horizontal space is lacking, can't you develop vertically? Can't barren land be fertilized? Suddenly, Joseph's questioning overwhelmed me. It seemed I had always passively accepted the rules, whether those set by our leader or the system, without ever thinking of making a change. Seeing my silence, Joseph cupped my face, almost pleading, "Come with me, will you?" At that moment, murderous thoughts flashed through my mind. Staying in the safety of my shelter, I could live out my days. Venturing out during the apocalypse was akin to a death sentence. Was he coveting my safe house, planning to lure me outside and kill me? He was too clever. Cracking my biometric lock might only be a matter of time. I couldn't take the risk. Dropping the rice, I touched the dagger at my waist. Looking into Joseph's earnest eyes, I was undecided. How should I kill him? Acting here in the city was too risky, and could easily break my carefully crafted persona. But as the saying goes, a long night breeds many dreams. Suddenly, the city's defense alarm blared again. Everyone sprang into action, and the once quiet alley was now flooded with people. I glanced at the ground where the rice from earlier had mysteriously disappeared, likely taken by someone. Joseph and I were close to the wall when I took the opportunity to slip away from his grasp and followed the crowd to a wide avenue. At the end of the avenue was the city wall, which I climbed to observe the surroundings through a telescope. The enemy was not some kind of mutant beast, but humans. Such a sight was unfamiliar to everyone. In our limited understanding, the world outside was fraught with dangers. There were groups of mutant rats that moved swiftly and could suddenly drag a person into their burrows. There were also mutant wolves with sharp teeth and a brutal lust for killing, as large as small elephants, and violently besieging cities. It was unthinkable for weak humans to venture into the wilderness. In my heart, I cursed. Stupid leaders dancing around the campfire with beauties at night. What a mess they've made. I left the watchtower and watched from afar the situation at the city gates. After surviving a previous disaster, I had become particularly cautious about my life. While the system barrier was one thing, I was mainly afraid of being captured by the enemy for research. The battle was imminent, and the enemy managed to breach our stone-built city gates with just a few tanks. However, I didn't know much about the subsequent battle, only that it wasn't very fierce, as I didn't hear any human screams. I hid in a safe house, setting the defense level to the highest, and after a series of irregular tremors, the world returned to peace. Not daring to take any chances, I stayed in the safe house for a month. One day, unable to bear it any longer, I cautiously made my way to the surface, but to my surprise, there were no signs of war around. The only thing, there was a letter placed on the table. The letter was from Joseph, who claimed to be my fiancé. Explaining that he had been searching for me ever since I disappeared years ago. He informed me that both humans and monsters were evolving. Our defense city was of the lowest rank and could easily be destroyed. The invaders, belonging to a middle-tier defense city, could fight the most brutal monsters to a standstill. The place I used to live was a high-end defense city, no longer fearing threats from monsters, where everyone could live peacefully. His visit was intended to take me back home. He couldn't understand why I didn't recognize him, comforting himself with the thought that perhaps I had lost my memory, but indeed, I remembered nothing. I read the letter 3 times, making sure I didn't miss anything, before burning it to ashes. As I wandered around the city, acid rain began to fall from the sky. Usually, we detested the arrival of acid rain, but now, thanks to Joseph Julian's purifier, everyone happily collected rainwater with glass containers. Mutant rats that could burrow were hard to guard against. We could only patch up holes as we found them, but Joseph's method was to drive them to a certain place for capture, and then inject a virus specifically targeting rats into their bodies. His method proved effective as rats have a habit of gnawing on the bodies of their peers, so in recent months, the rat plague had gradually subsided. The elder sister from next door was very surprised to see me. She thought I had died. Touching the window that Joseph had repaired for me, I felt somewhat lost. My older sister talked a lot, but I just listened quietly without responding. At the safe house, music played while the air fryer emitted the tantalizing aroma of roast meat, and the automatic sprinkler system sprayed fresh water on schedule. I sat on a chair, indulging in a lavish dinner I had prepared for myself. Click, the door opened. A high-pitched voice of surprise exclaimed, "Oh my God, sister, you actually, Aurora." Upon seeing my safe house, stared wide-eyed and mouth agape, her expression an exaggerated caricature of shock. Initially, she was hopping around, inspecting everything energetically, but soon her excitement overwhelmed her, and she collapsed to the floor, momentarily at a loss for words. I helped her to a chair and spun a tale that she believed. She devoured the matsutake beefsteak, goose liver, and caviar, stomping her feet in excitement. After she finished eating, I picked a fresh tomato and juiced it for her. After drinking the tomato juice I made, the juice dribbled down her chin, giving her a rather eerie look. She smiled at me, her expression shifting from satisfaction to greed, and her ability to speak returned. "You know, Bella, I'm not used to living with someone else." I held the knife tightly, its blade stained with the red juice of the tomato. I understood the underlying meaning of her words, my expression troubled. "Dear sister, why don't you live in my attic? It's quite nice, a small garden house. How about we swap?" she pleaded, her hands pressed together as if she was about to kneel and bow. I squinted and frowned. "Your neck, it looks very nice." "Huh, you mean the necklace? Here, you can have it back." She ripped off her necklace and threw it to me, and I reluctantly agreed to her request. Finally, under Aurora's supervision, I transferred the ownership of the safe house to her, taking advantage of the night. I took the necklace and went to a small building in the city center. This was previously Joseph's temporary residence. In the garage, there was a modified car he had left for me. Looking at the map Joseph left, I started the car without hesitation. My destination was that unknown, brilliant world. A month ago, Joseph had used female lion pheromones to lure a large group of mutant male lions in a strategic move to distract and relieve a siege. The brief tremor was caused by the charging group of male lions. Seeing the enemy's attack, the leader immediately activated a backup stone door, thus sparing the defensive city from disaster once more. But I had a feeling that this defensive city wouldn't withstand a third attack. Joseph had already left, rumored to have been captivated by the necklace Aurora wore around her neck. Frankly, I wasn't concerned about Joseph's feelings. What mattered to me was that everything he showed was characteristic of what a high-level defense city should possess. And holding this necklace, perhaps I could become the wife of a senior engineer, or maybe even more. Aurora was a part of my plan, my deliberate bait to let her discover my safe house. The car was equipped with a map, compass, and ample supplies. Ultimately, I paid an irreversible price for my curiosity and aspirations. I have no regrets, because once, when Julian was drunk, he inadvertently revealed crucial information. He mentioned that their Defense City's exploration team had rescued a gathering squad of over 100 people at a large supermarket, and those people came from a low-end Defense City. Everything matched up: the AKs found at the supermarket, the badge printed on their chests. I'm not an impulsive person, but I'm willing to take risks, and truly, I couldn't stand the loneliness. Living alone in the safe house for a month felt like an eternity, and I had a lot of time to think. The halo of the Holy Mother could indeed bring me multiplied rewards, but if this city became ruins, then to whom would I perform my Holy Mother deeds? Living underground, surviving through a recycling system for a lifetime, was not the life I wanted. Stepping out of my comfort zone was undoubtedly tough. On the first night alone, I was chased by mutated beasts. Thankfully, the car modified by Joseph was powerful enough to help me escape death. Throughout the journey, I braved the elements, using the marks on the map to avoid beast herds and towns as much as possible. Eventually, I lost the map and had to rely solely on memory and belief to repeatedly evade monster hunts. To avoid attacks, I chose a winding route. When I was about 100 kilometers from my destination, I ran out of gasoline, electricity, water, and food. I abandoned the car and proceeded on foot on a perilous path. Blood flowed from abrasions on my feet, which I had to cauterize with fire to avoid attracting beasts. For 4 days, I did not drink a drop of water, my mouth so dry it cracked. I dug around the base of a cactus, trying to extract some water. This was a high-stakes gamble. I gambled on the rewards under the Holy Mother halo. Since I had given up the perfect safe house in a Holy Mother manor to Aurora, what would I get in return? The answer was a high-end Defense City, finally. I collapsed at the entrance of the Defense City that existed in my dreams. It had a sturdier shell, more precise weapons, and more abundant resources, and I was to be the future lord of this Defense City. It turns out, the descendants of the city lords could awaken the apocalyptic Holy Mother super rewards system, but only those who dare to challenge the unknown, break through barriers, and strive to climb qualify to inherit it. We were stripped of our memories and sent to any city-state in the world, and I was the only one who came back alive. After gaining significant power, my Holy Mother system became ineffective, but immediately after, I was bound to the expansion system. I appointed Joseph as the Minister of Science and Julian as the Deputy Minister, urging them to vigorously pursue research. Additionally, I did not neglect the development of new agricultural and heavy industries. Everything was in service of war. I married Joseph, who knew and cared for me, braving dangers and trekking through mountains and rivers to find me, a man worthy of my trust. At night, he cried and told me many stories from our past, but strangely, I couldn't remember any of it. Later, I understood the reason. As a Doomsday City Lord, one must lock away their heart and love to reach further. How far? Of course. As far as planting our flag on the Defense City where I once lived, the reconnaissance drone showed that my good leader, because he obtained a safe house, he was overjoyed and celebrated with songs and dances. However, he had learned his lesson and did not light a bonfire this time. But, as I've said before, they absolutely cannot withstand a third attack. Kill.